Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studio. Junie Riddle and Adam Vingan filling in on this Thursday. You can watch us streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook. Download their app today and use the promo code THEGAME. Adam Vingan, welcome in. How are we doing today?
I'm good, Junie. How are you?
Doing just fine. Ian, how are we doing back there behind the glass?
What up, what up? Appreciate you guys hanging out today.
Absolutely. Great to be filling in. Appreciate Jared for giving us the opportunity to do so while he's out on vacation. And hope those cryptocurrency tweets get halted a little bit. Heard he got hacked yesterday, Adam. I don't know if you saw that.
I did. I didn't see it as it was happening. I think I caught it once he had to regain control of his Twitter. So I didn't get caught in any sort of crypto scam, fortunately.
Either way, hopefully you didn't invest too much if you were hopping on Twitter looking at Jared's tweets yesterday. But a lot of big headlines, and we are going to get started with probably the news of today, not the news of the week, but today. We have been waiting for a long time to hear from Kevin Byard. And he went up to the podium earlier, and they aired his press conference on Caroline Willie and D-Mace. And when Rand Carthon earlier this offseason asked Kevin Byard to take a pay cut, him being one of the highest paid safeties in the league, Rand Carthon coming from San Francisco where they really don't put a lot of money into the safety position. It's not a very high-valued player position in the NFL. But Kevin Byard, being who he is, the veteran, the leader, it sparked up a lot of controversy around town, and a lot of members of the media were more or so lining with Kevin and probably how he was feeling about it. So Kevin Byard basically tried to shut down the narrative that it was a storyline, that he wants to come in, that him skipping out on the OTAs, which are optional, was more or less that he was in his off-season routine and he was really liking what he was going to get into, and that he was always planning on being there for minicamp, and that he had conversations with the coaching staff and that they were all on the same page. So, Adam, hearing that from Kevin Byard today, do you still have thoughts or concerns going forward on whether or not this is still going to be an issue for the remainder of the offseason?
Not particularly. And when I was on with Caroline a couple of days ago, that being the first day of mandatory minicamp and Kevin Byard not addressing reporters, I told Caroline that until we heard from Kevin Byard, this story was going to be unresolved, at least publicly. So the fact that he addressed it today was a good sign, and nothing I heard suggested to me that this is going to be a lingering issue in the Titans facility. Kevin Byard has never come across to me as someone, who would, resent or harbor ill feelings towards the Titans in a way that would make him, a liability on the field. He's always been a professional, a stand-up guy. So, yeah, he's not happy about it. I think that was pretty clear. But it didn't seem like it was going to prevent him from doing his job. So, I don't think, is the issue over behind the scenes? There might be some feelings that need to be mended. In public, it feels like there really isn't much left to discuss when it comes to where Kevin Byard stands with the organization.
Let's hear from Kevin Byard himself earlier when he went live from Titans minicamp that we aired on Caroline Willie and D-Mace.
First and foremost, I kind of want to address the whole OTAs and things like that. I had been in communication with the coaching staff really early in the offseason before, obviously, all this news and all this stuff that came out, that, I was going to have my own plan to be able to train on my own. Obviously, every player on this team is in a different stage of their career. I am very comfortable, obviously, being with Shane, being with the coaching staff for 5 years, Shane being our coordinator for the last 4. Very comfortable within the defense. I had stayed in communication with the coaches this entire offseason about any new stuff that we had, any new nuances that was coming out within the defense. But I had been enjoying training on my own and felt it was very important. And it really was never any any doubt from the coaches and my end that, I wasn't going to be here for minicamp. I knew I was going to be here and be the same player that I always been, be the same leader that I always will be. So I kind of just want to put that out there. I know you guys got some other questions, but just want to put that out there.
So that was Kevin Byard kind of trying to put to rest this whole, media narrative, the storyline of Rand Carthon approaching him about taking a pay cut. For me, Adam, I hear that, and for me, being in the locker room on Titans game days for their home games this past season, seeing how Kevin Byard interacts, he is the heart and soul of that Titans defense. He is the emotional leader. Whenever you want to get the vibe of this team, you always go to him. I remember when they lost to Jacksonville at home. He was constantly saying, this is unacceptable. We understand that, that's a tough loss. Trevor Lawrence had a career day. I believe he had 3 or 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards against that Titans defense. And he still showed a lot of optimism. And then I kind of flash forward to that Chargers game last year when they didn't get it done. The defense obviously had a much better game, but they were on like 4 or 5 games that they had lost straight, and he had come out and said that this is genuinely concerning, and it wasn't as positive and upbeat. And I remember saying to Michelle, who I do Saturdays with from 9 to 11, I told Michelle, I was like, I think that this team is probably going to lose out. If Kevin Byard is coming out to the media and saying that this is unacceptable and not giving that the positive side of things and not reinforcing that that they can do a lot better, then I really feel like the entire team kind of follows suit with that. So what I gathered from what he was saying is, he's trying to put this to rest. He's going to be a good soldier. He complimented the organization and Rand Carthon and the hiring decision. He complimented Rand's character and the addition of Rand. But at the same time, I think the one thing he will take away from this, and that will continue to go on, is I think he knows where he stands with the organization, and that maybe his time here may be a little bit shorter. Not this season necessarily, but going forward, that they could be looking to move off of him and move off that money to go a little bit younger.
Yeah, he's pushing 30 years old, which in professional sports is old. I'm 34, so I have no room to talk. But Kevin Byard, close to 30 years old. So at his position, at his age, he is on the back nine, so to speak, of his career, most likely, or at least starting to get there. Like I said, I don't anticipate this being an issue. I don't anticipate Kevin Byard's production to plummet because of this. As you said, Junie, Kevin Byard has his finger firmly on the pulse of the Titans locker room. He is a go-to guy for the reporters who cover that team because he's honest and because he doesn't sugarcoat things. So when he did speak, before he spoke today, I expected him to be as upfront as he wanted to be. And although he did not get into the specifics of the conversation he had with Rand Carthon and said, I have people that I pay to handle those sorts of things. He didn't want to get too much detail about the specifics of the conversation. I left that particular time at the podium for Kevin Byard. I left it feeling that, I don't think it's a concern. He's here when he's supposed to be. He said it was never going to be an issue. It was always going to be here. And, I think we can put this to bed probably. I'm sure people wish we would have put it to bed sooner rather than later. But now that he has spoken about it and we've heard what he had to say, there's nothing that he said there that made me feel concerned about where he's going to be or where his head's at this coming season.
I completely agree, but a few things that he did mention, the Titans were 32nd in pass defense last year. They let up the most yards in the NFL. A lot of that did have to do with injury, but something that he spoke on was wanting to kind of fix those numbers, wanting to make a few more plays. And for me, I'm like, Kevin Byard is probably the biggest playmaker on that defense, especially in that game on Thursday Night Football at home against Dallas. 2 interceptions on Dak Prescott when so many people were sitting out that game for rest. But, Kevin wanted to keep his active streak going, never missing a game, and ended up making some huge plays. So he's wanting to take a step forward. I think he wants to prove himself to the organization. And if anything, he's going to take something like this, put it on the chin, and do so. But one kind of funny aspect of a comment that he made was he didn't want to go on a podcast or scrap his social media to send a message to the organization. So I look at other guys that were kind of going through some contract disputes, whether it was AJ Brown, last offseason, or it was Jeffrey Simmons this offseason when he scraped his entire social media. I thought that might have kind of been a little bit of a subtle shot. He did try to walk it back, but I was like, some of your teammates and some of your former teammates were the ones that were trying to do that. So I also kind of found that a little bit funny as well.
Yeah, Kevin Byard doesn't really seem like the podcast type to me.
No.
Imagine if the same thing would have happened with Taylor Lewan, for example. Point being, I don't think we have to worry about Kevin Byard at all. I don't think we would have had to worry about him even if even if this wasn't an issue. He's a consummate professional. He's in shape, and I imagine he's going to, if anything, he's going to use this as motivation, for his next contract, whether it's here or somewhere else. So I think we can safely put this issue to bed, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Adam and I are on the same page when it comes to Kevin Byard. I think he really did try to put this narrative to rest. He's coming back being the leader, the player that he always has been. And so for me and Adam, I think we both kind of agree that we can kind of move on from that. But some big news that came out yesterday, and this is really the news that's going to take over the week, probably take over the next couple weeks unless we see this player get signed somewhere. DeAndre Hopkins was reported by Tom Pelissero that he will be meeting with the Tennessee Titans. Mike Vrabel confirmed that after practice in his press conference yesterday. Adam and I are going to spend the rest of the first hour talking about DeAndre Hopkins into the Titans and what some of the players think about the potential addition to the team. You're listening to Stillman and Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
185! Every team needs a quarterback. 185! That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown.
Tim.
You can run good plays at the right time.
ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
You evaluate players, and then you're turning them over to the coaching staff.
Every Tuesday at noon.
At the right time.
With Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Tim on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The FedEx St. Jude Championship returns to TPC Southwind, August 9th through the 13th. Don't miss your chance to witness the top 70 players from the PGA Tour season battle it out in the first event of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Only 50 players will make it through Memphis. Don't miss your chance to watch the drama unfold. Daily grounds and upgraded ticket options are on sale now at FedExChampionship.com.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. It's that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Seems like everything costs more these days. Food, utilities, medical costs, you name it. But as prices go up, our family budget stays the same. Fortunately, with Farm Bureau Health Plan's Core Choice coverage, we can save $3,600 a year compared to the leading competitor. And we've got better coverage with a lower premium, lower deductible, free telehealth visits, and access to one of the largest networks available. Start saving today at FBHP.com or visit your local Farm Bureau office.
Men, at the Tennessee Men's Clinic, our urologists and providers have been helping guys with erectile dysfunction and other sexual health issues for years. And unlike some, at the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we take a comprehensive approach to your sexual health. our sole focus is to treat ED and related conditions. ED can be affected by a bunch of things, from hormones, prostate issues, medical conditions, and even simply aging. The fact is, most guys experience it at some point in life. If you're suffering with ED, it's extremely important to see a provider that understands how your medical conditions, hormone levels, and other factors can impact your ability to have sex. That's why you should come to the Tennessee Men's Clinic, where we have treatments that are effective in nearly 90% of cases. I can't tell you how many guys we've seen that thought their situation was hopeless, only to be wildly surprised. So give us a call today. We'll do some blood work with a T-check and a medical consult to give you the best shot at success. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. We have 2 offices, Midtown and Franklin.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra, results vary.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
I'm going to call this hot news because this is the first team we're seeing DeAndre Hopkins take a visit with. There's been so much chatter, right? It seems that for months now, and then when he was finally traded or at least released from the Arizona Cardinals. So here we are now with, Hop wants to be part of a team that can win. The Tennessee Titans are a team that, I think we could debate whether or not they're in a position to win right now. But they certainly need a top receiver. Treylon Burks is coming. He's growing. He's coming along. But they need a #1 guy, and I think D-Hop would be a good fit there. So I do think it's hot news because he's taking a visit. There's something there he likes. He's not trekking all the way to Nashville, Tennessee for no reason. So that's why I believe this is hot news, guys.
That was Diana Rossini coming on ESPN reporting that DeAndre Hopkins will be coming to meet with the Titans, the first team that he is going to meet with. And I find this super ironic because every narrative that you heard about, you talk about Deshaun Watson with the Cleveland Browns, maybe them two reuniting from their Houston days. Teams like the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs that are big-time contenders. He went on the I Am Athlete podcast, named out some of the top NFL QBs that he would like to play with, or his top 5 talent-wise that he could see himself playing with. And the first team that he's going to meet with is the Tennessee Titans. Adam, when you heard that report yesterday, what was your initial thoughts?
Well, as Diana said, if DeAndre Hopkins is looking to win a Super Bowl this season, it's probably not going to happen here. If he's looking for whichever team will give him the most money, the Titans aren't flush with cap space, and I can say that because Jared is on vacation, and I know he won't yell at me. And there are ways to manipulate that, of course, but it would take some maneuvering for the Titans to make that work. And so when you think of those two things, it didn't really seem like a natural fit, which is why I think when it was initially reported that Hopkins was coming to visit the Titans, I think a lot of people raised their eyebrows a little bit. But the one thing we do know about DeAndre Hopkins and his potential fit in Tennessee, other than his previous relationship with Mike Vrabel and Tim Kelly, is that he would be the unquestioned #1 receiver on this team. There would be a ton of targets going his way. And at the very least, he could rehabilitate his career a little bit. And if he wants to strike it rich again next summer, he could do it. So if he's looking for a team, if he's looking for a situation where he is going to be the alpha in the wide receiver room, this is it. So if that is appealing to him, he can get it here.
Well, I look at the amount that has been reported beforehand. And I see that teams like the Bills and the Chiefs were only willing to offer him about $3 million because they obviously do not have a ton of money to work with. Now, the Titans don't have a ton of money either, but they can be more flexible with a restructure to a Harold Landry contract, and they still do have more cap space than those juggernauts of teams. But I look at this, and he sat and spoke with Jim Wyatt back in 2018 before a Titans and Texans game. and talked about his relationship with Mike Vrabel. And this is back when Mike Vrabel was a rookie head coach with the Titans. And he asked him, he's like, what kind of relationship did you have with Mike Vrabel, if any? And what he came back with was he said, Vrabel's a former player, and although that he was coaching the defensive end, he was still somebody that he could go to not only for, football-related stuff, but also personal-related stuff. And we've seen this with Mike Vrabel coaching in the Pro Bowl and all of the different things that he's done since he's, kind of been put in the limelight and winning Coach of the Year, that a lot of players seem to really respect Mike Vrabel, and at least on the player scale of things, he's a guy that players want to come and play for. So the fact that he's already played in Tim Kelly's offense and he posted up some of his best years with Deshaun Watson in that system, he's good buddies with Derrick Henry. And like you mentioned, he would be the alpha of this group. I mean, right now, the way we're sitting, the Tennessee Titans are going to be relying on 3 second-year players, and Treylon Burks to be their number one, Kyle Phillips, if he can stay healthy, to show the potential of what he was showing in training camp last year, and be that slot receiver, that go-to number 2, and also tight end Chig Okonkwo, being that number 1 tight end, getting more of a usage than he did last season when they had Austin Hooper, and really trying to reach that full potential that a lot of people think that he can. So I feel like it's really risky for a team to go in and just put all their chips on a bunch of guys in year 2, because in the NFL, even as a rookie, you can come in and surprise some guys with your talent. They don't have a lot of film on you. They don't know how to guard you. They don't necessarily know all of your tendencies. So really, year 2 is kind of your make or break. Are you going to show that you can be a legitimate player in this league? Or are you going to have the film on you to where defenses, defensive coordinators, members of the secondary that you're going to be matched up against can know what you're wanting to do and take away some of those things, and in some cases expose you? And so I think for the Titans, what their mindset is right now, we need to go out and get another surefire receiver. DeAndre Hopkins was suspended for 6 games for PEDs. He sat out the final 2 games, which the Arizona Cardinals have already come out and said that he probably should have played, but with Kyler going down for the year with the ACL, and really the Cardinals being a perennial top 5 pick at that point in time with only a few games left, I don't think he really saw it fit to play. So it's not necessarily an injury issue for this guy. And I think he does want to come in and be the alpha. Now, would he be the number 1? That's another question, because Treylon Burks has looked great so far in off-season practices, whether it's OTAs or minicamp. So that is something that is kind of a cause for concern with me. Would it take away from what Treylon Burks is trying to be, or would it be a really nice compliment to Treylon Burks in his game and maybe take away some of that attention from him? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that is a good point. And by the way, this from Tehran, who will join us at the top of the next hour, Hopkins had 104 receptions for 1,165 yards and 7 touchdowns in 2019 when Tim Kelly was calling plays for the Texans. So clearly he thrives in a Tim Kelly run offense, though of course he did have Deshaun Watson. No disrespect to Ryan Tannehill. But Ian and Caroline and I did the math the other day. We took Treylon Burks, we took Nick Westbrook-Akine, easy for me to say, Chris Moore, and who else did we take there? Who was the 4th receiver? Why am I blanking on it? I don't know. Anyway, we took their top
Burks?
4.
Did you say Burks?
Yeah, Burks, Akine,
Phillips? Did you say Phillips?
Phillips, Moore. We took the receivers that they had on their team. Let's put it that way.
Was it Woods? Woods from last year?
No,
maybe?
it was. We were looking at this year's list.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm blanking on it. Anyway,
Maybe it was Racey McMath.
Racey McMath, thank you. Though we took those 5. They have a combined, I believe, 16 career touchdown catches, and 8 of them are by Chris Moore. I think that was what we determined. So an incredibly inexperienced and unproductive over the course of their combined careers. Now, as you said, multiple receivers early in their career, and Chris Moore is a journeyman. So a completely, unremarkable group of receivers And that's why I think a lot of people have written off the Titans. I saw a mock draft. I believe Todd McShay did a very, very, very early mock draft for next season and had the Titans picking number 4 overall, which says that he expects them to be the 4th worst team in the NFL next season. And that's not uncommon when you look at prognostications of this coming season. The Titans are expected to be bad, and one of the reasons why, to a lot of people, is because they don't have any receivers, or tested receivers at least. So adding Hopkins into this mix would be great in that regard. And I still think, though, that when you have a proven, multi-time Pro Bowl receiver like DeAndre Hopkins, I think Ryan Tannehill is going to look his way a lot. I think the Titans were hoping that last season. Now I know they signed they acquired Robert Woods, I think, before they traded A.J. Brown. So they expected A.J. Brown and Robert Woods and Treylon Burks to work in tandem. So Robert Woods did not live up to expectations as a number 2 receiver. He was injured, and now he's gone. And, of course, people remember what happened with Julio Jones. So I think there's a lot of, maybe some anxiety from Titans fans about bringing in Hopkins. But I think it's a no-brainer when you look at that room that they have, what they have, or more specifically, what they don't have.
Well, and I also consider this as well. Coming up next year, the Titans are going to be moving off of a lot of contracts. Their anticipated cap space is going to be $93.8 million. Now, obviously, they're going to use some of that money to re-sign some players, but for me, going into this season, the fact that they still have Ryan Tannehill, the fact that they still have Derrick Henry, the fact that they asked Kevin Byard, who we were just speaking about, to take a pay cut, and they didn't release him, which a lot of teams do when they ask a player to take a pay cut, it's telling me that the organization is still in their mindset going for it with this core group of players. Now, if you're still going for it, and this, DeAndre Hopkins is a high-level player, and again, suspensions and an MCL tear that he had in 2021, which, an MCL and an ACL are completely different. MCLs is like a 6-week recovery on average. I look at this as, why wouldn't you want to do it? Treylon Burks going into year 2, the fact that he's really the only guy that defensive coordinators are going to know and fear, they're going to try and take him out of the game. They're going to double team him. They're going to bracket him and put a safety over top of him, trying to limit everything that he can do. So, in like I had mentioned, in a year 2 where it is so important to see Treylon Burks take that next step, why not bring in a veteran who is a little bit older, and maybe his production is going to be a little bit less than what it has in the past. But if he can help open up this offense for some of these year 2 receivers to get a little bit more experience and have a bit of a breakout season, I just don't see why you wouldn't do it. So we're going to continue this DeAndre Hopkins conversation. A few of the Titans players have actually made comments about it. We are going to get into that next. You are listening to Stillman and Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
For the win! Yes! Vanderbilt wins it!
All the big stories.
Quarterback carousel. What the Titans decide to do at the quarterback position.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
10% chance of making the playoffs. Checker flag is in the
team with incredible talent.
Every team in the league.
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Interest rates may be high everywhere else, but now at Genesis Diamonds, you can get 0 interest on any purchase. 5 years, 0 interest financing with nothing down. Beautiful eternity bands, 1-carat diamond stud earrings, and more. Starting at only $50 a month. At Genesis, we are always looking for ways to do more for our amazing customers. So don't miss this. 5 years, 0 interest financing. Imagine that $6,000 designer ring is just $100 a month. We'll even finance the sales tax. Now through July 1st only. And only at Genesis Diamonds. Green Hills and Cool Springs. On approved credit, see store for details.
Buffalo Bill's Center of the West in Cody, Wyoming welcomes you as you enter Yellowstone Park's East Entrance. 5 museums in one, including a wonderful Plains Indian Museum. Welcome to the West. Buffalo Bill's Center of the West, Cody, Wyoming.
This week's Nashville's best deal is from River Queen Voyages. It's a fun and unique way to cool off in Nashville this summer. Nashville's River Fun Authority gives you the best views of the city with skyline kayaking, river scavenger hunts, and a party pontoon with your own captain. Book your downtown river adventure at riverqueenvoyages.com. And while supplies last, get half off a $50 gift card at thegamenashville.com/deals. That's thegamenashville.com/deals.
102.5 The Game and Green Trees Company Dispensary want to send you to see Bryan Adams at Bridgestone Arena Saturday, June 17th with very special guests Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Listen all week long to Robbie and Rexroad for your cue to call to win tickets to Bryan Adams and Joan Jett at Bridgestone Arena.
The NBA's best battle for the ultimate prize.
NBA champions.
Every big bucket.
Three-pointers right side is good.
Every big stop.
The steal rejected.
We are your home for the NBA Finals. Presented by Superbook Sports. Hear every game on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is Mookie Betts. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
We already know what news broke earlier today that, DeAndre Hopkins, the wide receiver, may be taking a visit, man. Like, you got a recruiting pitch for him? You know what I'm saying?
Hey, man, it's crazy because, I didn't know until today. And then of course, I already sent the DM, like, come on with it. You already know what's up. So, I know, the type of player he is, being able to play against him and get ready to play against him, just to watch the film and, okay, DeAndre Hopkins, that's the guy we got to stop. And just everyone have a lot of respect for DeAndre Hopkins. He's been around the game for a long time and, just his playmaking ability. And I'm sure just his leadership and what type of teammate he is, the reason why everybody want him on their team. So, I would love him on our team. Hopefully I see him around while he's in town. But, man, it'd be love to have him on our team to help us, and not to rebuild, to help us get some win this year.
That was Jeffrey Simmons on the NFL Network talking about his recruitment pitch, sliding into the DMs for DeAndre Hopkins after finding out after minicamp practice yesterday that D-Hop would be coming to Nashville, flying in on Sunday, meeting with the Titans at the facility on Monday, trying to give his pitch. He says, hey, bring him on in. We need the help. And he even mentioned the fact that we don't want to be going through a rebuild right now. The fact that he mentioned that, Adam, I found that really interesting. But tune into Nashville Sounds Baseball tonight at 6:05 p.m. on 94.9 The Fan. The Sounds take on the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, AAA affiliate of the Miami Marlins. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan is presented by 312 Pizza, Farm Bureau Health Plans, and Family Leisure. So, Jeffrey Simmons is all on board to go out and get DeAndre Hopkins. Mike Vrabel even touched on that in his press conference yesterday. So, if the guys are for it, if Vrabel seems like he's pretty eager about it, which he seemed like he was in a good mood in his press conference today. I don't know if you got to tune into that. He seemed like he was feeling himself a bit, and we'll get into that with Teron Davenport at the 3 o'clock hour for the TD Power Hour. But you got to think, if Vrabel and his relationship with Hopkins from Houston, he's played in Tim Kelly's offense. Some of the players at least seem to be excited, and we'll get into a different player later. But does this seem like a pretty easy done deal for you to think that the Titans are at least going to really put their best foot forward to try and go and get a receiver like this?
Yeah, absolutely. DeAndre Hopkins had 115 receptions 2 years ago in 2020, his first season in Arizona. He had 115 receptions, more than 1,400 yards, and 6 touchdowns. So not far removed from still being one of the top receivers in the NFL. Now, you'd have to temper expectations if he signs here, but he would be far and away the most talented receiver that they have. And look, we can relitigate the A.J. Brown trade. We've done it plenty of times over the past couple of years or year, however long it's been. And the Titans sorely miss having a target like A.J. Brown. And DeAndre Hopkins wouldn't necessarily replace that, but it would come pretty darn close. And if the Titans, as Jeffrey Simmons said in that clip, if they are uninterested in going through a rebuild, and as you mentioned, Junie, the fact that they've still got Ryan Tannehill, they still got Derrick Henry, they asked Kevin Byard to take a pay cut. I mean, they trimmed some fat, of veteran players like Bud Dupree and Taylor Lewan and Randy Bullock, but none of that was a surprise. The fact that the main core players are still here means they intend to compete. So signing DeAndre Hopkins fits into that vision. This doesn't see for a team that wants to continue to win or try to win. This is the type of move that you have to make. So, obviously you don't want to break the bank. You want to make sure it's a deal that works for both sides. But all things being equal, I would want him on my team. I don't think there's a question about it.
So I'm going to put it to you like this, Adam. The one negative, the negative comments that I'm hearing from Titans fans in general is essentially they're kind of spooked by the whole Julio Jones acquisition back in 2021. And for me, looking at this team, Tannehill comes in when they're 2-6. In 2019, they go on a run to the AFC Championship. The following year, the Titans have one of the best offenses in the league, but the defense can't hold up. They went for it in 2021. And the flop that was Julio Jones and giving up the second and fourth round pick is what is kind of haunting Titans fans and maybe making them a bit more reserved. And I want to get into why, for me at least, this narrative is bogus. It's absolutely BS to me. Because, number one, Julio Jones primarily relies on his speed as a receiver. And I think Derek Mason touched on this, but this is also an interesting point that I discovered kind of during my draft process. I had Jordan Addison as my number one receiver coming off the board this year. That was for me personally. And he ran a really slow 40. And as an undersized receiver, a lot of people were like, why would you do that? So I did some research, and I was like, what are some other big-time receivers that didn't have good 40 times, their speed, and somewhat of their athleticism were put into question? DeAndre Hopkins is one of those guys. DeAndre Hopkins ran above a 4.5. It was almost a 4.6 where he was. I think it was like a 4.57. And when I look at a guy like Julio Jones who ran a 4.39 and was running a 4.4 for probably the entire prime of his years in Atlanta, they're two completely different players. When Julio Jones was dealing with his hamstrings, which if you know anything about hamstring injuries, they are ailing. They stick with you. And when you get to the age of 32, 33 years old, it's really hard for professional athletes to get over something like that. And that's what Julio Jones was going through. He's still playing at an elite level for the Falcons in 2020, but the signs were there when the injury hit that might have been the last time we would see him at an elite level. And Jared, I'll give him credit for it. He was one of the ones that was not for going out and getting Julio. And he winded up being right because Julio was just an absolute flop. But the reason I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to be different is because he doesn't rely on the speed. He's a physical receiver. He loves to go up and get those contested catches. Although he is on the slower end, he does have a quick burst. He has some twitchiness to him, and his route running ability is elite. And he's also a year younger than what Julio was when you acquired him. If you can pay and give up a second and fourth round pick for Julio Jones and pay him upwards to $15 million a year, and you're telling me that you can't put up at least $10 million with incentives to go get a DeAndre Hopkins who's not dealing with ailing injuries, I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's a no-brainer with the lack of experience on the offensive end, with all the question marks in every single national media outlet ranking the Titans wide receivers last in the NFL. Making a move like this while you still have Derrick Henry playing at an elite level, I think can turn the narrative of the 2023 Tennessee Titans around.
And a lot of the talk about how much it would take to get DeAndre Hopkins in the building, the comparable has been what Odell Beckham got from the Baltimore Ravens, which is a $15 million guaranteed contract with incentives that could bring it up to $18 million. And those incentives are based on, according to Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. To certain thresholds, he cashes in. So, for example, this is Odell Beckham's contract according to Mike Florio. So 30 catches is $250,000. 40 catches is $500,000. 50 catches, $750,000. 60 catches, $1 million. Or if he leads the team in receptions. Receiving yards, $250 for $250, $500 for $500, $750 for $750, and $1 million for 1,000 yards. So if you were to structure a contract like that with similar incentives, I mean, I think they're very much attainable, and I think that's something you would have to do if you were to sign Hopkins to an incentive-laden contract, is to make those incentives very much doable. So, I mean, would you give DeAndre Hopkins the equivalent of the Odell Beckham contract, which there have been reports that was sort of the minimum that he was looking for, or the threshold he was looking for?
I personally would. And that's the thing, is that Odell Beckham Jr. got that $13 million signing bonus, which doesn't go against the cap. So you're talking about front-loading the money and basically paying him up front for what you think he's going to do, and then incentivizing a little bit more to get to that certain number to where, you know, they still have something to play and reach for. And for a one-year deal, I just don't think that the risk is too rich for this team. You know, you still have Derrick Henry. You know, with the whole quarterback situation, I have my personal views on what they should do at quarterback. But regardless, if you're sticking with Tannehill, we've seen what Tannehill is without A.J. Brown. We've seen what Tannehill is when they didn't re-sign Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis and all those weapons that they had in 2020, where Tannehill had his absolute best career year. And if you want to get the most out of this guy, and Tannehill is your guy for this year, which I'm thinking that the Titans are wanting him to be, then this is just a no-brainer for me. I just don't see what the negative aspect would be for a one-year deal. If it works out, great. You likely can compete with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who I think is a couple steps ahead of you at this point. And I think with how stacked the AFC is, the only way the Titans are going to get into the playoffs is if they win the division. So if Jacksonville is already a few steps ahead of you, and you still have your veteran pillars that are here, and you have the money and the wherewithal to be able to do it, and you know that there's going to be so much cap space that is opening up the following year, this has got to be a deal that the Tennessee Titans get done. He is coming to you first. He has familiarity with your coaching staff and some of your players. They have to get it done when he comes here on Monday, because I think that the season relies on it, and I think that the tone of the fan base and how they're viewed by the national media also depends on that as well. But with all of this being said, there is one player on the Titans that, according to his comments, and I think you really try to soften it up a bit, but it sounded like he wouldn't be too happy if DeAndre Hopkins was signed by the team. We will get into that next. We also want you to hit up our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Weigh in on your opinion. Should the Titans sign DeAndre Hopkins? Why or why not? We will get into which player on the Titans right now is a little bit iffy on whether or not they should bring him into the locker room. You're listening to Stillman and Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Those are my guys. Hiller has been taking care of my home for years, and they can do the exact same for you. I love telling you about Hiller, and they are proud supporters of the Preds and both Vandy and the Vols. Hiller's Heatwave Heroes are keeping you from getting burned this summer, and it is hot. If you know your home needs an air conditioning replacement, do not wait until it breaks down. You do not want to be sweating in your home. This month, get a free UV light and free electronic air cleaner when you buy select new HVAC systems. Or get a whole home water filtration for just $59 a month. Or get a new whole home generator for just $139 a month. Call Hiller's Heatwave Heroes to save the day. Visit happyhiller.com to book. Hiller's work is backed by the Happy You'll Be Your Services free guarantee. And again, I know this, because Hiller has been taking care of my home ever since I've been a homeowner. Hiller offers real-time online booking, so you can just select the appointment time that works for you and get the instant confirmation. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Call the Happy Face Truck today.
He knows the ins and outs of the Titans and isn't afraid to give his opinion.
Traylon Burks needs a massive offseason.
He's Jonathan Hutton of Outkick.
I don't see how they make a move without going to Ryan Tannehill.
Catch him every Monday at 10:30 on Chase and Michelle, and every Wednesday at noon on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Hutton is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
In football, we are take our hits, but protection keeps you in the game. That's why I always wear my helmet and pads on the field. Life, too, comes with risk. So I got vaccinated for COVID-19. Hi, this is former Tennessee Titans, 3-time Pro Bowl defensive end Javon Kearse. Talk to your doctor and get the information you need to make an informed choice. Gear up, Tennessee. Protect yourself and your family against COVID-19.
For more information, go to NFLAGearUp.org/Tennessee.
Hey, it's John Tesh. You want to know how to get better rates, better coverage, and better service on your home and auto insurance? Work with Zander Insurance. I know it's a big promise, but this team delivers. They've been around for almost 100 years and have earned the privilege of representing dozens of insurance companies so they can shop, compare, and find you the best options available. More options mean more savings, and in many cases, better coverage. But it doesn't stop there. Each year, they review your coverage to make sure your rates stay competitive. Nobody else does that. And when it comes to service, just check out their ratings. Zander is one of the top agencies in the industry, and they earned that spot with their commitment to making sure their clients are taken care of like family. That's what sets them apart. Go to Zander.com for quick online quotes or call 800-356-1780 for that personal touch that you've been missing.
When we talk about tenure at Cromwell Media, the owner of this station, we're not kidding around. This month, we're celebrating 6 teammates who have a combined 85 years of service to our company and our community. They are Rosemary Walters, 26 years, Cindy Marino, 21 years, Lakin King, 14 years, Ace Swartz, 13 years, and Chase McCabe, 11 years. If you'd like to experience what it's like to work for a great company, shoot us a note at together@cromwellmedia.com. That's together@cromwellmedia.com.
Barlines in the Omni Nashville Hotel stays true to the spirit of Music City, the perfect spot for sports and arena concert fans year-round. Savor Barline's originals, the Barline Barbecue Burger or Midtown Mushroom Swiss Burger. Excite your taste buds with the Sobro Grinder with smoked turkey, the Boss Hog with whiskey braised pork butt, and the Angry Chicken, pickle brine fried chicken breast with honey sriracha. Attending an event downtown? Barline's in the Omni Nashville Hotel, open daily at 11 a.m. is a great way to kick off your afternoon or evening.
One is a legendary NFL wide receiver. I gotta be prepared. I have to be ready. One is a legendary Nashville voice.
You don't have to rely on carrying the ball 250 to 300 times.
And the other has been a legendary trash talker on the playground since the 4th grade.
Nobody is a Pro Bowler on day 1 of rookie minicamp.
They are Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Weekdays at 11 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Report out that DeAndre is coming to visit on Sunday. It's the first free agent stop. What would you think about having him as a teammate?
You know, that's something that I can't control. He's an awesome player, great player. Would be fun to play with him. You know, if we end up getting him, then we get him. If we don't, then we don't. But no offense to him, he's a great player. I'm just glad. I like playing with who we have here.
Somebody you could learn a lot from, though.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, he would be a great mentor. You know, I've watched D-Hop since I was younger. One of my favorite players, and you know, he just carries himself the right way. And then his game on the field just speaks for itself. So.
That was Traylon Burks yesterday when asked about the possibility of teaming up with DeAndre Hopkins. Welcome back into Stillman and Company. Junie Riddle, Adam Vingan in here live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studio. Adam, it did not seem like he was too enthused about the opportunity of playing with DeAndre Hopkins. It's not up to me. You know, it is what it is. I like who we have now. All those comments seem like the politically right answer of saying, I don't want him to come here. What is that? Am I gathering the same thing that you were gathering from that?
It wasn't a full-throated endorsement. That's to be sure. And to your point earlier, if DeAndre Hopkins comes in and he takes a significant target share, that's less work for Treylon Burks. And I'm sure the one reason why Treylon Burks likes the room that they have is because he's the number one in that room. And if DeAndre Hopkins comes in, then there's a bit of a dogfight, for lack of a better term, between the two of them. So, yeah, I mean, I think it was just a young receiver, trying not to ruffle any feathers by answering a question, but sometimes, as he gets older and more experienced answering these questions, he'll probably think about the tone of his responses. So I can see why you would think that. I could see why you would say didn't seem too happy about it. And look, if he's not, I can completely understand why.
For me, I just think there's so much more like positives that can be taken away from bringing in DeAndre Hopkins. And maybe he could be looking out for guys that are below him on the roster, like a Kyle Phillips, who I think it would genuinely impact a guy like him, because then he would move from being maybe the third target guy on the team to the fourth or the fifth. But with that being said, I just don't see the offensive power on this offense, and who's the defense going to take away? And immediately it goes to Treylon Burks. And with everything that he's done and all the steps and the leaps and the bounds that he's taken, having a guy opposite of you that is more of a well-known name, defensive coordinators have had to deal with him for years. They're going to really try and take him out of it. If anything, I just think it frees Treylon Burks up more. And for how much he's kind of already getting overshadowed this offseason as it is, I think Treylon Burks is going to be more of a surprise commodity for this Titans offense. I don't think defensive coordinators around the league are going to know how good Treylon Burks actually will be this offseason with how much weight that he's cut, how much work he's put into this offseason, being with the team for a full year and knowing what to expect. I just really think having a DeAndre Hopkins like that just opens up the field, and with his age and with being a part of this offense, which I feel like is the first offense that he might be a part that's more run-centric than it is pass-centric, that DeAndre Hopkins is going to be the focal point for defenses to try and shut down. And I just think that it would open up a ton for Treylon Burks. And I just don't get the sentiment of why he would be so opposed to it, because it just really seemed like he basically did everything but come out and say, absolutely not. I would hate this. Don't do it. It's really going to tick everybody in the wide receiver room off. Like, you got to have some kind of sense that this guy can come in and help the team, right?
Yeah, I think it was, by and large, a diplomatic response. He's not on the team yet. It would be great, if he would be a great mentor. And I think your point about perhaps Treylon Burks supporting the receivers that are already there, the other young receivers who could be getting an elevated role, like Racey McMath, like Kyle Phillips. I think he's backing his guys. But I have a hard time imagining anybody would be upset to see DeAndre Hopkins in the building if they're interested in winning. And even a diminished DeAndre Hopkins is a better receiver than most, if not all, of the receivers they currently have on their team. Now, Treylon Burks could, surpass that, and we need to see it on the field. And TD can certainly get into this during the TD Power Hour. If you have someone like DeAndre Hopkins, that defensive coordinators and other teams have to respect, even if he's 75% of the receiver he once was. You have to game plan for DeAndre Hopkins, which means that someone else is going to have to focus on Treylon Burks, and that might not be your number one option in your secondary. So I do think that while Treylon Burks may be looking out for himself and saying, hey, saying without saying it, I want to be the number one guy, and DeAndre Hopkins would prevent that, something tells me that Treylon Burks would have a better year statistically if he's on the team, a more consistent year if he is, as you've been saying, the unquestioned number one who's going to attract the most attention from the other top defensive players.
I just think with how disappointing this offense was last year, I mean, they were averaging a mere 17 points a game, and DeAndre Hopkins, and their leading receiver was Robert Woods. And in my opinion, Robert Woods played like trash last year, like absolute trash, dropping a bunch of balls, didn't live up to the hype. Again, he was coming off ACL, but regardless, smaller guys like that recover from an ACL more or less than a Taylor Lewan who's bigger in stature and all that. But when I look at D-Hop, he only played in 9 games last year. And in a 17-game schedule, that's right around half. And you got to think, he missed the first 6 games of the year. So how many of those games were actually with Kyler Murray before he went down with his torn ACL? Probably maybe half. So he's dealing with backup quarterback like a Colt McCoy or a Trace McSorley, for the second half of that season. And he still put up right around 200 more yards than Robert Woods, who was the leading receiver for this team last year. And we talked about it. We said that in year 2, it is a prove-it year for guys coming into the league. Rookie year, you can have a breakout season. You can have an awful season. And it really just kind of all depends on how you come into the league. For Treylon Burks, he didn't come prepared for the league last year. And obviously some injury and a concussion had something to do with that. But you just got to think, with Kyle Phillips, Chig Okonkwo, and Treylon Burks all being in year 2, you want to get the most out of these guys. And if you bring in a D-Hop who can be the leader, shares experience, he's only going to be here for a year. The Titans, with where they're going after this season, this is it. This is the Tennessee Titans' last dance with everybody. All these contracts are going to expire next season. So they're putting all their chips into the middle. They're trying to go for it one last time with this core group. Whether you agree with it or not, DeAndre Hopkins is going to help with that narrative.
To answer your question, I believe DeAndre Hopkins only played 5 games where Kyler Murray was the starting quarterback.
Okay.
So he missed the first 6 games, correct?
Yes.
So he was with him in week 7, 8, 9. Murray sat out 10 and 11. He started week 12. He made 1 pass attempt in week 13 before coming out of the game. So really 4 games. He played 4 games last season with Kyler Murray for the whole game.
And like we mentioned, with the age, he's not injury prone. Though I mean, I'm looking at his games played throughout his career, not counting last year at the end of the season. He sat out because he didn't want to play for a team that's picking top 3 in the draft. But in 2021, he missed 7 games. Outside of that, he doesn't have a single season since he came into the league in 2013 where he missed more than 1 game. The guy stays healthy for the most part. His game does not rely on his athleticism, and this is a position of need that could really, put this team over the top and get them in that same conversation with Jacksonville. Because, say what you want. Last year was last year. If you don't think that Trevor Lawrence is going to take another step under a Super Bowl winning head coach, a really good offensive mind that won his Super Bowl by chance with Nick Foles, essentially, I scratch out Lawrence's rookie year with Urban Meyer. This is really his year 2 where I feel like he's going to take off. He's getting Calvin Ridley. He's got another year with Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk. This move right here for DeAndre Hopkins puts you into that conversation, especially with Derrick Henry still playing at an elite level. But we are going to continue this conversation about the Tennessee Titans. We're going to talk Kevin Byard. We're going to talk DeAndre Hopkins. And I also have a list of my concerns for this team going into this season. We are going to talk about that with Teron Davenport for the TD Power Hour coming up next. You're listening to Stillman and Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
The Titans offseason work continues with minicamp this week.
Will is competing, he's working hard, trying to take care of those rookie guys and the skilled players.
What will we see out of the rookies and the veterans for the two-tone blue?
Yeah, coming together, learning a new offense right now. I'll take advantage of every rep we get.
Talking Titans? Keep it locked to Nashville's best Titans talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
The choice is yours, Wednesdays at 8:45. Brought to you by Jarrett Companies. Now hiring experienced sprinkler experts. Go to jarrettfire.com. JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, a company above and beyond industry standards.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
AM radio provides always-on news, sports, talk, traffic, and weather reports. And it's also a vital service that provides important emergency information when your community needs it most. Tell Congress you need AM radio to stay in your car. Because when cell phones and the internet are down, this free emergency service is critical. And when you don't have electricity, radio in the car is often your only lifeline. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Now, your Game Center update.
Brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. The Tennessee Titans wrapped up minicamp today. Safety Kevin Byard addressed the media today and talked about why he missed some of camp earlier this offseason.
Very comfortable within the defense. I had stayed in communication with the coaches this entire offseason about any new stuff that we had, any nuances that was coming out within the defense. But I had been enjoying training on my own and felt it was very important. And it really was never any doubt from the coaches and my end that, I wasn't going to be here for minicamp. I knew I was going to be here and be the same player that I always been, be the same leader that I always will be.
In the NBA Finals last night, it was Denver taking a 2-1 series lead over the Miami Heat. The Stanley Cup Final resumes tonight as the Vegas Golden Knights are looking to take a commanding 3-0 lead over the Florida Panthers. We'll have coverage beginning at 6:30 right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. And the Nashville Sounds are back in action down in Jacksonville this evening. Hear Jeff Hem on the call starting at 5:50 on your home of the Sounds, 94.9 The Fan. This update brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. From the Game Nashville studios, this is Ian Safar.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3.
1, 2, 3.
I think it was a good game. You had a couple of big plays. The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company live here from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studio. It is 3 o'clock on a Thursday, and you all know what that means. It is time for the TD Power Hour. Teron Davenport, ESPN Titans reporter, is in the house. TD, how we doing?
Hey, I'm doing really well, man. Fresh off of Titans practice, so it was a good opportunity to see these guys go through a full workout and everything. Everything is good, man. Beautiful weather outside. Got this nice cup of coffee right here, Got you right here. I mean, we got Ian back. We're in good shape.
It's been a boring week for the Titans, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's,
not a lot to talk about, right?
I was joking with Jim Wyatt walking out of practice today, and I'm like, man, I don't know what to do with myself. I've gotten 3 newsers in 1 week on the Titans. I mean, I pitch all the time to the news desk, but everything I've pitched this week has gone. So it's like, there's a lot for sure.
Typically not a lot to talk about in June, but definitely the narratives around the Titans are pretty hot right now. So Kevin Byard spoke earlier today, and we aired that on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. But here is Kevin Byard in some of his initial comments about Rand Carthon asking him to take a pay cut earlier in this year. This is his first time speaking to the media. Here is Kevin Byard.
First and foremost, I kind of want to address the whole OTAs and things like that. I had been in communication with the coaching staff really early in the offseason before, obviously, all this news and all this stuff that came out, that, I was going to have my own plan to be able to train on my own. Obviously, every player on this team is in a different stage of their career. I am very comfortable, obviously, being with Shane, being with the coach staff for 5 years, Shane being our coordinator for the last 4. Very comfortable within the defense. I had stayed in communication with the coaches this entire offseason about any new stuff that we had, any new nuances that was coming out within the defense. But I had been enjoying training on my own and felt it was very important. And it really was never any doubt from the coaches and my end that, I wasn't going to be here for minicamp. I knew I was going to be here and be the same player that I always been, be the same leader that I always will be. So I kind of just want to put that out there. I know you guys got some other questions, but just want to put that out there.
That was Kevin Byard earlier today at the podium. Now, TD, you were there. What did you gather from his comments? Because it really seemed like he was trying to deflect the narrative and really shut down the storyline that this is a big deal of Rand Carthon asking him to take a pay cut earlier in the offseason.
Yeah, I like the way he made it clear from the start that it was the plan all along. And he touched on it a little bit later when he spoke, when he said that he had gotten back into training and working out in February, soon after the Super Bowl. And he painted the picture of how things are when you come back in April. Typically, it's a ramping up period. A lot of guys are returning. He, at that point, had already not peaked, but was reaching, climbing that mountain. And he wanted to continue to build off of what he did before. So that's what I made about it, that it was more a thing of not a disgust or disappointment with the being asked to take a pay cut. It was more of, I got to pick up where I left off and continue. And obviously, you're going to have, I'm sure he's disappointed that it was asked, because the guy does literally to a T everything that is asked of him. But I think it was more to stay along his workout. And he's with Jay Holt with Athletes Performance. Some of the other guys, Roger McCreary. I know Kyle Duggar from the Patriots, Corn Elder, local DB. There are a few others, but they're all working out together.
And that's kind of what I took away, because Caroline and Willie and D-Mace, they kind of seemed that he was really more or less deflecting to try and, keep the narrative off, but they think behind the scenes that there's still an issue. I don't think so. I'm kind of in agreement with you to where I see this as an eye-opener for him. He's getting up in age. Safety isn't necessarily a premium position. And when you have a new GM coming in and they have maybe a different philosophy than what John Robinson had prior to, who drafted Kevin Byard, I didn't see a lot of safeties getting paid in San Francisco. And so I think more or less this was an eye-opener for him to say, like you mentioned, I got to be on top of my game. I got to continue and progress to make plays, get this secondary back together, because they were ranked 32nd in the league last year, TD.
Yeah, against the pass, yeah.
And I know injuries had to do with some of that, but still, that stat line is still out there, and I think Kevin Byard, as the leader of this defense, and especially that unit in particular, he's going to want to do the most he can to try and change that narrative and up those stats a bit.
The thing I like about Byard is he's driven regardless. And that's the thing. There wasn't any psychological part of it that said, hey, I'm going to train harder. At least that's what he said, right? And he admitted to making some plays last year, but said he could have made more. I think when you look at the big picture, it is, like you said, an eye-opener. It's an understanding like, hey, you know what? Nobody's safe. And it's something, going back to I talked to Chance Campbell after practice today, and I asked him about being comfortable with it being year 2, and he was like, oh, no. We don't get comfortable around here. You know what I mean? And I just for a second-year player to have that mindset and understanding It's the same thing with Kevin Byard. Even though you're considered one of the top 5 safeties in the league, you don't get comfortable, and you continue to work and find ways to improve, and that's what he's done.
I completely agree with that. Kevin Byard, what do you have? 4 interceptions last year. He's led the team and tackles encompassly for the last couple years. So he's a big part of this defense, and I just think, for me, it doesn't make a lot of sense when the strength of your team is the defense and the one weakness of this defense is your secondary. For one, I personally wouldn't have asked him for a pay cut. I just don't think a guy like that, and you're in the locker room, and I got to experience that last season as well. He's the guy that's rallying the troops. He's the guy that's pushing out the message. And I think that his message over anybody, even whether it's Derek, whether it's Ryan, whether it's Jeff, that he's the one that sets the tone in the locker room and that people look to him to follow that.
Yeah, he's definitely, and that's something Sean Murphy-Bunting has said. Man, seems like people follow him around. He's a newcomer to the locker room, and he made that observation. So it's definitely the case. I think when you look at him, it's not just the production, man. It's the longevity. I'm looking here, just looking through snap counts and stuff. Man, since becoming a full-time starter in 2017, he hasn't played less than 96% of the defensive snaps. Now, mind you, up through 2019, I want to say 2020 was the first year it didn't happen, but up until then, he was also the personal protector on punt team. So not only is he playing 96 at a minimum % of your defensive snaps, he's also playing pretty much all of your punt snaps, and that's an awful lot. So I think when you look at what he's been able to do, it's very clear that the production is there, the longevity is there, and then the leadership as well. That's something else. Azeez Al-Shire, he spoke on Tuesday when Byard was first back, and he said that it felt different, and it was like a special buzz, a charge that they felt. And I will say that defense, that was the first time after seeing them for the previous 2 OTA opportunities that we got, or 3, that was the first time I saw like a play was made, everybody jumped up and everybody's reacting. And it was one he drove down on the Chigakonkwo pass from Ryan Tannehill and poked it out. And everybody reacted to it. And then you started to see the defense have a different energy. Those are the things that go beyond just the 5 interceptions, the 100 tackles, and those type of things. It's the impact that you have on others.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Now, one comment that I made a note of was at the very end, and I got a little bit of a laugh out of it because I kind of felt like it could have been taken as a shot towards, former teammates and maybe even some current, about how he didn't go on a podcast or scrap his social media of all the Titans pictures. Did you gain anything from that, and you think he meant anything by it?
I don't think it was a shot, because KB doesn't come across as someone that would take a shot at someone else. But, I mean, he's obviously aware of how other people do things. But he cleaned it up quickly when he said, hey, I mean, that's just, to me, that's not the way I go about doing it.
He did really quickly go up and clean it up.
So he cleaned it up. But we know that there were some guys that did that. But, hey, it worked out, because one of them – and even like you – real quick, like with Simmons, that wasn't to put the Titans on alert or anything. He literally wanted to pull – I don't know if you've seen the way this guy trains. Like, he's lifting buildings and stuff with his brother, Dylan Bradley. That's what they do to train. But he wanted to just focus on training. He didn't want anything – hear anything. He pushed it all off. Hey, Paul DeRosalle, that's you. You handle that. You in the walking business, you guys handle that, not me.
So all in all, just to wrap this up with Kevin Byard, do you think this is a narrative and a story going forward?
I don't think it's a true narrative or story. I would be surprised if he said that he wasn't bothered, or if he isn't bothered. He's a human being. I'm sure it bothered him. But it's to what degree did it bother? That's really the main thing. So, no, to answer your question going forward, I don't think it's going to be an issue. He's in the building. It's about football. It's about winning and excelling, and that's what KB is about.
615-737-1025 is our phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHotDay.com. Submit your questions. Get the phone lines ready because we are going to be asking questions to Teron Davenport at 3:45. So get those loaded up, and we will get to those a little bit later. But Kevin Byard was the story of today, but the story of the week is the announcement that DeAndre Hopkins will be flying into Nashville on Sunday and meeting with the Tennessee Titans on Monday. We are going to get TD's reaction and what he thinks the Titans should do with the DeAndre Hopkins speculation going around. You're listening to Stillman & Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
This fall,
Andy, 24-21, your final.
The Game.
All by himself for a one-hand flush.
Gets bigger.
The doors on the board.
Your new home for Vanderbilt Athletics is 102.5 The Game and 94.9 The Fan. Football, men's basketball, baseball, and women's basketball all live here. Your home for Vanderbilt Athletics is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and 94.9 The Fan.
What's up, everybody? Teron Davenport here for Superbook Sports. Bring that big bet energy this summer with Superbook Sports. Superbook Sports is the most trusted name in sports betting. And right now, use promo code THEGAME to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, they'll match your first bet up to $250 with promo code THEGAME. Simply visit superbook.com for terms and conditions or download the Superbook Tennessee app in the app stores. Enter promo code THEGAME and you'll get $250 courtesy of Superbook Sports. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hey y'all, it's Caroline Fenton, and I want to tell you about my friends over at 312 Pizza Company. 312 Pizza is my favorite place in town. It's family-owned and operated, bringing you a slice of Chicago to Nashville. 312 Pizza Company specializes in deep dish pizza, thin crust pizza, and all things Chicago style, always made from scratch using secret family recipes passed down generation to generation. 312 Pizza is open every day except for Tuesday and is located in Germantown with dine-in, takeout, and curbside available. Call 615-730-7888 or head to 312pizzaco.com to order 312 Pizza Company, Nashville's authentic Chicago pizzeria.
CMA Fest is happening in downtown Nashville, June 8th through 11th, with dozens of performances by many of today's hottest black country artists, including K. Michelle, Chapel Hart, the TSU Aristocratic Bands, Breland, and many more. Proceeds benefit the CMA Foundation and music education programs. Visit CMAFest.com for details.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormonal deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve your quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit our website at coolspringsmd.com.
Tenacious D and the Spicy Meatball Tour. Rightfully hailed as the greatest band on earth, Tenacious D are coming to you live September 7th, First Bank Amphitheater, Franklin, Tennessee. On sale this Friday at 10 a.m. at LiveNation.com, part of the Farm Bureau Insurance Concert Series. Buy tickets at LiveNation.com. Don't miss Tenacious D, live in all their glory.
Wendy's is open till midnight or later, so you can give in to the craving and go night mode. Now all of your favorite menu items just got their bedtime extended. You can get what you want even later, like the Baconator with 6 strips of bacon, or the perfect fries and frosty duo. If you're up later, then so are we. So go ahead and pull through the drive-thru. When the craving hits, go night mode at Wendy's. Open till midnight or later. All right, see ya later.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, hours may vary.
Anyone want to tell me what happened? Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Stillman & Company podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to thegamenashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman & Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Welcome back into Stillman & Company. It is the TD Power Hour. We teased it before the break. The news came out yesterday that DeAndre Hopkins will be coming and visiting the Tennessee Titans at the facility on Monday. So, TD, you were at practice yesterday. You were at minicamp doing your thing, and all of a sudden, the report that Tom Pelissero puts out that DeAndre Hopkins is going to come right here to Nashville and visit with the Tennessee Titans, something that we've been talking about for a while, something that a lot of us, me included, did not see as a realistic option. But now, he's coming in the building.
I always felt it was a realistic option, and it's funny because you always get the, Twitter guys who know everything, and they're like, "Oh, you're crazy." I said, look, man, I'm not saying it's probable, but I'm saying it's something that I'm sure would have to be considered because you have the familiarity there. And lo and behold, look what happens. He's set to visit. And I think it's a really good thing. You look at what he was able to do, and I know Deshaun Watson was peaking at the time, but with Tim Kelly calling the plays 2019, it was a situation where he had 104 catches, 1,165 yards, 7 touchdowns. It was his 4th best season. He's had 115 reception seasons. Another one, it was 111. This one, 104. So his 4th best.
So, I mean, he's got familiarity with Mike Vrabel. You know, we've already seen in a Jim White mailbag from a few years ago during Vrabel's head coach rookie year that they had a relationship, that they were cool, that not only could D-Hop go to Vrabel about football stuff, but he could go to him about personal things as well. So you've got that. And the one thing that I find interesting is that the Titans right now are the only team reported that are going to be meeting with him. Mm-hmm. I saw Mary Kay Cabot, she's a Browns beat writer for Cleveland.com, saying that it's a long shot for the Browns to sign D-Hop and that they're not looking to go out and get a big-name wide receiver. And that was the one team that I really saw as the most likely landing spot. And with the flexibility that the Titans have with the cap space right now, you know, they can do some restructure work with Harold Landry's contract. Do you see them as the favorite to land him at this moment in time?
Well, one of the – I forget what it was, but one of them, Joe Rexroth, had mentioned it. He was like – it was 2 to 1. The Titans were the favorites. I mean, I think they definitely need to be among the top teams. Me personally, I always thought that the Chiefs was the best option for him. We'll see what happens there. I look at it this way. For him, it's about opportunity. It's about familiarity. And I think it's about going where you're wanted. And this Titans team wants him. They've shown it by wanting him to come here. And then you look at being able to leave your legacy. Traylon Burks mentioned that this is a guy that he's always watched and is one of his favorites. I think when you bring a guy like Hopkins in, it gives your number one, so to speak, in Burks an opportunity to learn from a true number one, a guy who has been there and done that. We talk about 4 seasons with 100-plus receptions. That's another thing. You can leave your legacy by, you know, and Burks, a lot of the things that they do are similar in the contested catch side of things and, you know, back shoulder throws and all of that. I think the Titans are an absolute option. And then you also have to mention, you know, Derrick Henry in the backfield. Once he gets going, that ends up 8 in the box. You're one-on-one on the outside. If I'm DeAndre Hopkins, I want as many of those opportunities as possible because it's like it's me and you, and guess what? It ain't going to be me. You know, and that's the mindset that you have when you're out there.
So I think the response that I've been hearing and seeing from a lot of fans is really kind of the flashback nightmares from Julio Jones. Now, I kind of gave my take on it in the first hour of the show, but I want to kind of hear your perspective on fans that are a little bit hesitant on getting a 31 or soon-to-be 31-year-old wide receiver and how that's a little bit different than the way that the Titans went out and got Julio Jones in 2021.
It's understandable. I mean, it goes all the way back to Eric Moulds. You got Andre Johnson, Julio Jones, who you mentioned. You got, I mean, there's so many. Randy Moss. There's so many. And I think it's all circumstantial. I think each of those situations are in themselves unique, individualized. And it's like, let's say you go to Sonic, which I did go to before I came here. Let's say you go to one of the Sonics, right? And you go to the one over there in Murfreesboro, and that one's bad. Does that mean you never go to Sonic again?
Absolutely not.
Right.
I think they got some quality shakes over there. No free ads though, but
Yeah. So that's how I look at it. Like, I'm not going to I wouldn't allow a bad experience. And in this case, you're talking about 4 or 5 bad experiences to influence me on the next one, because you're not going to hit if you don't try. You got to swing the bat. And this right here, how many people were like, hey, go out and get Alan Lazard, go out and get Jacoby Myers. These guys are getting $10 million, $11 million a year. So if you're going to be okay with paying it for a proven product in Hopkins.
I would say the only difference is age. Those guys, they got a little bit of fresher legs. They're really kind of starting to come into their own a bit.
But they haven't really produced.
Yeah,
not even 1,000. What's the Lazard? He was close to 1,000 last year. I'm gonna look at.
I know Juju Smith-Schuster had 900 and some change, so he was I think he was 930. Lazard, I'm not sure about. I feel like everybody's numbers was down. 788. Yeah. Jacoby Myers though,
he didn't.
That one I don't really understand.
Yeah,
and maybe his stat line. I didn't watch a lot of New England Patriots football last year, but for me, I saw the lateral in the Raiders game, and I was just like, yeah, no thanks.
804 and 6 touchdowns. That's not bad.
That's not bad. That's not
$10 million.
But for me, with the whole notion about Julio Jones, is Julio really relies on his speed. Derek Mason touched on this, but when I was kind of going through the draft process, and I was really vouching for Jordan Addison to be the number 1 wide receiver off the board this year. And everybody was coming to me saying, he ran a slow 40. So I did some research. And I was like, well, what are other receivers that ended up being big time that had other traits, but they didn't have the best 40 time? They weren't the fastest or most athletic. D-Hop was one of them. He ran a 4.57, very close to a 4.6. And that was back in his younger years, right? And so when you look at a Julio Jones who primarily relied on his speed, and even though he ran a 4.39, I'm sure he was running in the 4.4s for a majority of his prime.
Yeah.
He was dealing with like an ailing hamstring, whereas D-Hop has been healthy outside of an MCL tear in 2021. And last year was a suspension, and he sat out the last 2 games because, really he didn't want to play for a team that was going down the crapshoot.
No Kyler Murray.
And starting Trace McSorley.
Here's the thing. I think when you look at it, you got the difference in that is just the depreciating ability, right? And you mentioned Julio's speed. You mentioned the everything that he brings to the table, and that's 100% right. But I think with Hopkins, he's always gotten by on things that you could continue to maintain even at an older age, right? Wisely understanding body positioning, timing on your jumps, being able to box out, positioning, understanding how to set DBs up, stack them, and all of those phrases that you want to use. Those are the things, as opposed to just like, I'm the better athlete than you, and you're about to see why. And that's not exactly the case that you see with Hopkins. And then, by the way, his hands are huge from what I remember him being spoken about him. So that's something else, those contested, like I said, those catches, those opportunities. And then even just the timing and pacing in his route. I never forget, and I wish I would have asked Byard about this today, because I remember it was a home game, Texans against the Titans, and I remember it was like a 3rd and 15, and Hopkins ran like a 6 route, which is like a dig, in-breaking route, deeper in-breaking route. And he was going from left to right. And I remember the pocket got muddy. Watson rolled out to his left, and Hopkins just slammed on the brakes, reverse field, and Byard was covering him. And he reverse field with Watson, got open. Watson threw it to him. It was like a 19-yard gain, and it's a first down. That was a big first down for them late in the game. And those are the type of things where that's not your speed. That's just your being on the same page with the quarterback and being able to move your route off a schedule and ad-lib and freelance, so to speak, with the quarterback.
We're going to continue this DeAndre Hopkins storyline. I want to touch on some things with TD about some of the players that have come out and spoken about what they think an addition of DeAndre Hopkins. Some mixed reviews in the Titans locker room. You're listening to Stillman and Company, the TD Power Hour. We will continue this conversation next. You're listening to Stillman and Company again on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Hey, it's Jared for PhD Weight Loss. I've been doing this program now with PhD Weight Loss where they've sent me 85% of the food. They've given me a customized meal plan. They have given me my own coach that's worked me through this. I've been doing this now for about a month, and I've already lost 14 pounds. And I'm talking about 14 real pounds. And I saw Joe this weekend. He's doing the same program. He looks great. And we talk about this, and I can tell he's as excited as I am with doing this. It's been a lot of fun. It's not a workout program. It's a nutritional coach, a nutritional chart, and 85% of the food. And it teaches me how to eat, and it provides me with goals and how many pounds I'm going to drop and how long it's going to take. And here's the guarantee. If you don't get within 5 pounds of your target weight at the end of your program, PhD will continue to coach you for free until you do. Those are my friends at PhD Weight Loss online at myphdweightloss.com.
Every day we are live and local.
Are you going to pay $20.2 million for someone who's struggling this much to stay healthy?
And your source for Nashville sports.
The players got to play better, and they're the ones actually out on the court, and they got to execute.
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Family Leisure is having a come out and play sale.
That's right. Family Leisure is inviting you to come out and play with a new swimming pool, spa, or patio furniture set.
Family Leisure has hundreds of pools in stock and on sale. DIY pools start at only $16.99. 24-foot pools are only $29.99 installed.
Installation in less than 10 days on average.
More than 100 spas in stock and ready for immediate delivery. Artesian, Strong, and LPI spas starting at only $29.99.
What about the patio furniture?
Family Leisure has hundreds of sets in stock and on sale. Hanneman, Woodard, Trabatone, and Loft, all ready for immediate delivery.
Family Leisure also has the Sabre infrared grill in stock and on sale at only $14.99, and the Bull Grill Islands at only $39.99.
And Family Leisure has the Diamond Point Play Gym at only $24.99 installed and ready for immediate delivery.
Pool tables, massage chairs, and theater seating all on sale and ready for immediate delivery.
Come out and play at both huge locations, Franklin and Antioch. Well, family and fun come together.
3 days of racing, 3 days of music, one huge weekend event. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is not just a race or a festival, it's an experience. Multiple music stations with Flo Rida, Vince Neil, Chris Jansen, Gavin DeGraw, and more. Fast cars going over 200 miles an hour. And a family fun zone with inflatables, Ferris wheels, kids games, and kid-friendly food trucks. Tickets and premium hospitality are on sale now. Go to MusicCityGP.com for tickets and get ready to experience Nashville's premier speed and sound event.
AM radio provides always-on news, sports, talk, traffic, and weather reports. And it's also a vital service that provides important emergency information when your community needs it most. Tell Congress you need AM radio to stay in your car. Because when cell phones and the internet are down, this free emergency service is critical. And when you don't have electricity, radio in the car is often your only lifeline. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
The Stanley Cup Final lives here. Which team will hoist Lord Stanley's Cup in 2023? Follow all the action on Smashville's home for postseason hockey. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is David Price. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
We already know what news broke earlier today that, DeAndre Hopkins, the wide receiver, may be taking a visit, man. Like, you got a recruiting pitch for him? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's crazy because, I didn't know until today. And then of course, I already sent the DM, like, come on with it. You already know what's up. So, I know, the type of player he is, being able to play against him and get ready to play against him, just to watch the film and, okay, DeAndre Hopkins, that's the guy we got to stop. And just everyone have a lot of respect for DeAndre Hopkins. He's been around the game for a long time, and just his playmaking ability, and I'm sure just his leadership and what type of teammate he is, the reason why everybody want him on their team. So, I would love him on our team. Hopefully I see him around while he's in town. But, man, it'd be love to have him on our team to help us, and not to rebuild, to help us get some win this year.
That was Jeffrey Simmons appearing on NFL Network talking about his recruitment strategy of trying to get DeAndre Hopkins after he got the news. Post-minicamp practice yesterday. Slid into the DMs, TD. He's trying to get him to come here to Nashville. Maybe he'll probably be a part of that visit on Monday. But, the big aspect of this is you hear Jeffrey Simmons talking about really wanting to get D-Hop on the team, and that's a defensive player. But then another offensive player spoke to the local media here yesterday, and Treylon Burks was not so eager to bring in the veteran wide receiver. Here's Treylon Burks on his comments on his opinion on if the Titans should go out and get DeAndre Hopkins.
Report out that DeAndre is coming to visit on Sunday. It's first free agent stop. What would you think about having him as a teammate?
That's something that I can't control. He's an awesome player, great player. Would be fun to play with him. If we end up getting him, then we get him. If we don't, then we don't. But no offense to him, he's a great player. I'm just glad. I like playing with who we have here.
Somebody you could learn a lot from, though.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, he would be a great mentor. I've watched D-Hop since I was younger. One of my favorite players, and he just carries himself the right way. And then his game on the field just speaks for itself. So
that was Treylon Burks at the podium yesterday. Now, I saw you made a little bit of a face when I said that he wasn't too eager to get D-Hop in the building. Do you have a different take on that?
I don't think that he's against it at all. I mean, he didn't do backflips and cartwheels and jumping jacks about it. But I think when you hear a guy say he would be a great mentor, I think when you hear a guy say that he's someone that I've always watched and has been one of my favorites, I think those are the things. Now, obviously, the sentence at the end of the first quote about no offense to him, but I like the guys that we're playing with. All that is, you got to remember, Treylon is emerging into the guy in that room, right? And when you're the guy in the room, you need the rest of your teammates, the rest of your guys to know, hey, look, man, I'm riding with y'all. So I think what he did there was do a great job of straddling the fence, saying, hey, look, it would be a great opportunity. If it happens, cool. If it doesn't, we're good with what we have, and we'll make do. Because you don't know. He doesn't know. What happens if he's like, man, we need this guy. He would make our room, and they don't sign him. And then you got to go back in there, and you're like, hey, Racy, I think you have plenty of ability. And Racy was looking at him like, you were just, you know what I mean? So I think that's excellent leadership from Treylon Burks, and its growth as well, maturity.
I see where you're coming from, but on the flip side, when he initially came off and said, it's not my decision, it is what it is, I flash back and I look at A.J. Brown when he wanted to get Julio Jones, and he was like, man, you could have number 11, do it all. You can do whatever you want. We just want you to come here to Tennessee.
We know, and this is a bit of an issue that I continue to see. Treylon Burks and AJ they're too different, man. Too different, man. AJ is just different. You knew he was different when he had the Dolce & Gabbana glasses at NFLPA.
Yeah,
hey, what are you doing with those silly shades on? But that's just him. You know what I mean? So I think when you look at that, and AJ was more comfortable in his own skin. Treylon Burks is getting there now. But AJ, from the start, was there's just certain people who it's like when the spotlight's on them, they blossom. And I think that's the case with AJ. And that's not to say that that's not the case with Treylon Burks, but I feel like he's still finding his own way and is not as secure to come out like that. Not that he would have, because you're right. He didn't, he wasn't overly.
It wasn't a glowing
eager.
endorsement.
No, I mean, I think it was a good endorsement in my opinion. When you say that this is someone that I've always watched and that was one of my favorites, I keep hanging on to that. But yeah, it's a different case with AJ and Julio, man. That was it's just a different case in my opinion.
And I get that. And at the time, obviously, AJ was a much more solidified player and had proven himself from the jumps. But I get that. But to me, I guess my initial reaction was, I think we're good with what we got. I would rather my guys have the opportunity to prove themselves. So for me, looking at that, because I see the addition of DeAndre Hopkins as only a net positive for a Treylon Burks. It's going to take the attention off. It's going to take the double teams. It's going to take away some of the bracketing with the safeties you do. You already mentioned the boxes that these wide receivers are going to see when you still have Derrick Henry playing at an elite level. Yeah. I think if you add a DeAndre Hopkins on the other side for a year two player that had a disappointing rookie year, whether, you want to include injuries and all that, it was a disappointing year. Mm-hmm. And all things, to his credit, are showing that he's likely going to take a jump this year.
Absolutely.
So for me, if I were him, I would be like, he's only going to be here 1 year. He's going to take away a lot of the defensive pressure that I and Chig is going to get. Mm-hmm. For you, I would like you to kind of let me know what would be maybe the negative aspect to getting a DeAndre Hopkins and how that could affect some of these year two guys that are trying to make that leap.
I don't think there's a negative aspect to any of those guys, honestly, because, look, here's the thing. To get to this level, you have to be a competitor to the thousandth power. So if I'm Racey McMath, if I'm Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, if I'm Kyle Phillips, whoever, and they sign him, I'm like, okay, that's cool. You want to bring somebody in? But I'm going to show you why you need to make sure I get mine too. There's enough for all of us to eat, but I'm going to make sure I eat too. You know what I mean? And that's, I think, is what the approach would be. I can't see it being a negative because it's not like DeAndre Hopkins is a terrible teammate. It's not like, so people have said that he doesn't like to practice. But I tell you what, you go in and you watch the Hard Knocks from a few years ago when they were it was the Texans. I think the Texans visited the then called Washington, the Washington football team. They had joint practices, and naturally there's going to be talk back and forth. D'Angelo Hall was talking that talk.
I remember this clip.
Yeah, and you know what Hopkins did. And I think when you add somebody like that to the group, to the team, it alone makes things more intense. And Sean Murphy-Bunting had hinted at that how he said he would be a great guy to practice against. So I think it's just a win all around. Now, let's say he comes here and he's not the same. Yeah, that could be a loss. That could be a loss just to the organization because, boom, you put this money out once again and it was not a good return.
But even on a year contract, if he doesn't come in and he doesn't produce, do you really think it would be that big of a deal? For me, I think it's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
If he's not good, who cares? He's going to be gone next year. You have younger guys that you want to see step up. And first guy that comes to mind to me is Kyle Phillips because I expect Treylon and Chig to have big years. But a guy like Kyle Phillips who had a really good training camp, who had a really good start to the season against the Giants, but obviously didn't get much after that and was sitting out the rest of the year with injury. I feel like if DeAndre Hopkins isn't that guy, you're going to get an opportunity for one of these younger guys to come in and at least show what they have after a disappointing year for the wide receiver core last year.
Yeah, I think more than likely next season they'll be addressing the receiver position regardless. I tell you what, though, and just disclaimer, I'm not saying he's going to be a top guy or anything like that, but Colton Dowell he's strung together a couple pretty solid practices. But just as far as Burks and Hopkins are concerned, And it's something I talked to Zach Pillar. He used to play for the Titans. He was a guard back with the Eddie George and Air McNair and D. Mace days. And he made an excellent point. He was like, you add a guy like that, it's just the confidence that it gives you. Because now, like, you're like, this dude has made a presence within the league. You talk about top receivers, his name frequently comes up. And there's a level of confidence that he gives you also. So I don't think, him having a bad season would be – I mean, it definitely would hurt the organization because that confidence and that positive feeling is let down. But at the same time, what do you consider a bad season? Because the other thing you got to remember is it's like paradigms, right? It's shifted. We'll use the corporate term, shift the paradigm. You're not looking at him as a guy to come in and be your number one receiver. That's Traylon Burks' role. You're looking at him as a guy to come in and be a supportive player that will hold his own alongside Traylon Burks. So now that expectation of 80 to 95 receptions for 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns is different. Wait a minute. I just need you to come in, and I want you to groom this young guy. I want you to be that presence opposite him. Hey, 70, 80 receptions, approaching 1,000 yards, that's solid. And I think that's how you look at it.
615-737-1025. Final segment of the TD Power Hour. We will be taking all of your questions. Give us a call in. Shoot us a text driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, 615-737-1025. Kevin Byard, DeAndre Hopkins, whatever you want to know, submit your questions now, and we will get into that next. You are listening to Stillman and Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game has an all-star lineup Monday through Friday. Batting first at 6 a.m., it's Robbie and Rexroad.
Yeah, you take that. You take that. Take 80% of that.
Followed by Chase and Michelle at 9.
Couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
I need my caffeine so much.
Then it's Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace at 11.
Yep, green light, let's go.
You've got a lot of options.
He say, she say. And bringing it home at 2, Jared Stillman for Stillman and Company.
That guy will be a good coach.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
High interest rates may be the norm everywhere else. But right now at Genesis Diamonds, we're always thinking about our customers, and we've decided to slash interest rates down to 0. 0% for 5 years. That means you can get those diamond earrings, that designer engagement ring, or that luxury pre-owned Rolex and spread your payments over 5 whole years without paying a dime in interest. Birthdays, anniversaries, just because gifts starting as low as $35 a month. And that's with 0 down. Now through July 1st only. And only at Genesis Diamonds. Green Hills and Cool Springs. Approved credit. See store for details.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Buffalo Bill's Center of the West in Cody, Wyoming welcomes you as you enter Yellowstone Park's east entrance. 5 museums in one, including the fantastic Whitney Western Art Museum. Welcome to the West. Buffalo Bill's Center of the West, Cody, Wyoming.
This week's Nashville's best deal is from River Queen Voyages. It's a fun and unique way to cool off in Nashville this summer. Nashville's River Fun Authority gives you the best views of the city with skyline kayaking, river scavenger hunts, and a party pontoon with your own captain. Book your downtown river adventure at riverqueenvoyages.com. And while supplies last, get half off a $50 gift card at thegamenashville.com/deals. That's thegamenashville.com/deals.
Hey, Jay, can you finish that induction range installation tomorrow?
Orders have really amped up at Nate's Electric.
We need to finish installing it first in Maine. Did we hear back from the grocery chain?
It's no shock he needs electricians, like yesterday.
Smart fridge. Everybody wants one of those these days.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed, you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Insightful discussion.
When we talk about the person that these players are.
3 goals scored in the first 5 minutes. He wants to be the starter, day one. Mixed with spirited debate.
Okay, but Professor Derek.
They are Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. With Caroline Fenton, Willie Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
We got the whole thing covered. We got it all covered.
Here.
Weekdays at 11 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Gotta let it play a little bit. Gotta let it
You
play
have
a little
to.
bit, TD.
The Wu-Tang.
Welcome back into Stillman and Company.
Wu-Tang.
Final segment of the TD Power Hour. We have got your questions coming in. I'm going to start with Kinston. TD, how has Caleb Murphy and Andre Dillard looked?
I could always rely on Kinston to ask something that I want to talk about. That's my guy right there. Listen, I said a couple weeks ago on this very show, Caleb Murphy, the undrafted free agent, will make this roster. Kinston asked how he looks. Well, I tell you what, they had team period. And he went up against Jalen Duncan. And the first rep, he kind of slanted inside, and he was able to get to – it would have been it was close to a would-be sack on Will Levis.
Definitely a QB pressure, though.
At very least a pressure. The second time, I don't know if he ate his spinach or what happened before that snap. I know what happened. Sometimes you get yourself up underneath their pads and you could drive them back. And he drove. And Jalen Dunkins is a very nice-looking athlete, 6'6", 306. Very well-built lower body, everything. Caleb Murphy got up in his chest and drove him back into Will Levis.
Got to get at that pad
drove him
level,
back
man.
and that's what he did, man. I like Caleb Murphy a lot. He looked good today, especially. Dillard is continuing to work. Man, it's HE double hockey sticks going against Arden Key. And Mike Vrabel, it was either today or yesterday, has said it. Man, this dude could string 7 moves together on one pass rush on you, and you're just left like, yo. And it's tough, but Dillard is coming along, you know, and I think he's going to be the left tackle.
That's a good one. Another texter, unknown name. Currently, what do you think is this team's ceiling with D-Hop, and what do you think the ceiling is without him?
I mean, I think it's reasonable for this team to win 9 games without Hopkins. So I'll say 11 games with him. That's a reasonable outlook for me because I think this defense is going to do well. I think, you know, being able to run the football the way that they do and that play action. I also think that scheme that Tim Kelly, some of the things that they're doing, I can't wait to see them, you know, where everybody could see some of the things that they're working on because it's pretty interesting.
Okay, we got Mike on line 1 on Hopkins. Mike, go ahead.
Hey, guys. So, TD, I like some Titans fans, I would be – well, I'm sorry, all Titans fans, like for the most part, you're crazy if you don't think that D-Hop would come in and make the team more fun and exciting to watch.
Oh, yeah.
But the offseason with like, I feel like we have 2 different narratives going, and with it being Ran Carthon's first year, like it's really hard for me to keep track of what's kind of going on because in one half you got an opportunity to sign a top 5, top 10 wide receiver, depending on how you look at it, and make a gun shoot for the Super Bowl. Like a run for the playoffs. I feel like you sign D-Hop if you seriously think that you can win the division and compete with the rest of the AFC to do that. But then the other narrative that you have going on is that, like, you know, Kevin Byard wants to take a pay cut, and then they, you know, do we want him on the team? Do we not want him on the team? Derrick Henry trade rumors, Ryan Tannehill trade rumors. Like it's really confusing as a Titans fan to sit here and like know where we're headed. Which I know it's kind of hard to tell with Rand only being here in charge for about less than a year already, like not even. So like again, can you help me split the two and kind of see where we're at?
Absolutely, Mike. Before you go, I'm gonna ask you one question. Just answer it with one word. Have you heard Rand Carthon say I want to get rid of Kevin Byard. I'm shopping Derrick Henry, and I'm considering getting rid of Tannehill.
I think it's just the smoke and mirrors that you're seeing from other sites, other reporters, and stuff like that.
And guess where it's coming from? Outside of the building. So how do you take that narrative that's being established? With a grain of salt. That's really the difference. And what they're showing you by re-upping Jeffrey Simmons, what they're showing you by keeping Derrick Henry around, what they're showing you by having Ryan Tannehill here, what they're showing you by, at the very least, listen, DeAndre Hopkins isn't going to come. He's not going to come to Nashville if there wasn't some type of conversation about the correct compensation being offered to him. That shows you, okay, he may not sign, but they're putting that money up to at least entice him to get here. All of that tells you that, hey, look, this team isn't rebuilding. This team isn't. They're reloading. They're not blowing the whole thing up, at least not this year, and I think they've shown that.
That was a good call, Mike. We appreciate you calling in and asking TD the question, and I'm with you, TD. I think if the organization had moved off Tannehill and traded Henry, like all the rumors coming out of the combine saying that they were, gauging, what the interest level would be and how much they could get in return, then I would be like, okay,
yeah,
that makes sense. But you ask Kevin Byard for a pay cut, and what do a lot of teams do when they ask a player for a pay cut? They let him go if he doesn't take the pay cut. They're keeping Kevin Byard, they're keeping Tannehill, and they're keeping Derrick Henry. That tells me that they are going to do one big go for it this year, and if it works out, it works out. And for me, you're bringing in D-Hop to take that next step, because right now I don't see the Titans, with how this roster is constructed right now, at the same level that Jacksonville is. You put a D-Hop on this offense, I'm listening to those phone calls.
The thing is, though, this roster was worse when they lost on a bogus call.
But here's my one counter to that.
How did Jacksonville get better? In fact, they lost one of their tackles, and another one suspended. Calvin Ridley is back, but
they got Calvin Ridley. My one thing is I throw away Trevor Lawrence's rookie year with Urban Meyer.
Oh, absolutely.
I throw it out. I act like it never happened. And to me, for a 2-14 team, it's pretty much non-existent. You go through another year under a Super Bowl winning head coach that won with Nick Foles. I would say he's one of the better offensive minds in the game.
Mm-hmm. Vrabel was one of the better defensive minds.
I just think Trevor Lawrence, in the talent at the quarterback position, and right now they have the more talented receiving weapons, the more talented offense. I think right now that gives you the edge. Last year's last year.
I think
this is a new year.
I think the defense is just as good, if not better. I'm not ready to put Jacksonville, and I'm not a Titans fan or anything like that. I'm just going by what I believe. I think they're even keel. I don't think I wouldn't put one above the other.
Well, you want to stay on for one more segment?
Yeah,
I got some questions that I want to ask TD. A lot of people are very high. I mean, Adam Vingan thinks the Titans are going to win 10 games. Jared Stillman thinks they're going to win 11 games. I think they're in that 7 to 9 win range. Yeah. And I got some questions, and maybe you can clear some things up and help me understand why that some of the local media are hyping this team up then a little bit more than I say they deserve. So we will get into that next. We got TD for one extra segment. You are listening to Stillman Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Hey, it's Jared from my official sportsbook app, the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's almost time to crown an NBA champion, and FanDuel wants you to be a part of the excitement, because right now new customers can get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's $2,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel has great promotions every day, a safe and secure app, and you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet the finals action than on America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/JGM and get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's FanDuel.com/JGM. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. I'm a big believer in the Nuggets in this series. I know, but I just think Jokic is the best player in the NBA. I am a big believer in Denver because of that. 21 and older and present Tennessee. First online real money wager, only $10 deposit required. Refund issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
The NHL Awards and NHL Draft are coming soon to the Music City. Join us live June 26th through 29th at Bridgestone Arena as we'll have you covered from the red carpet and the draft floor as the stars of tomorrow join the quest for Lord Stanley's Cup. We are your home for Smashville. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Tenacious D and the Spicy Meatball Tour. Rightfully hailed as the greatest band on earth, Tenacious D are coming to you live September 7th, First Bank Amphitheater, Franklin, Tennessee. On sale this Friday at 10 a.m. at LiveNation.com, part of the Farm Bureau Insurance Concert Series. Buy tickets at LiveNation.com. Don't miss Tenacious D, live in all their glory.
Imagine you're looking at a balancing scale with everything you do for other people on one side and everything you do for yourself on the other side. If it isn't balanced, maybe it's time to spend a little more time on you. And therapy is a great place to start. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist online who can help you find that balance and stick to it. Visit BetterHelp.com/score to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/score.
Have you Googled yourself lately? Are there negative posts from an ex-employee or from a former client? Maybe an outdated news article or sensitive personal information about your family? Search engines don't always get it right. For right or wrong, it's your reputation on the line. That's where Reputation Defender by Norton comes in. One of the most trusted names in online reputation repair, Reputation Defender has been fixing people's search results for over 15 years. Their cutting-edge approaches help you to wipe away unwanted information in your search results. They also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, helping you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. Take control with Reputation Defender. You can start by getting your free reputation report card at reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 to speak to an expert. That's 800-401-6681.
Now, your Game Center update.
Brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. The Tennessee Titans wrapped up minicamp today. Safety Kevin Byard addressed the media today and talked about why he missed some of camp earlier this offseason.
Very comfortable within the defense. I had stayed in communication with the coaches this entire offseason about any new stuff that we had, any nuances that was coming out within the defense. But I had been enjoying training on my own and felt it was very important. And it really was never any doubt from the coaches and my end that, I wasn't going to be here for minicamp. I knew I was going to be here and be the same player that I've always been, be the same leader that I always will be.
In the NBA Finals last night, it was Denver taking a 2-1 series lead over the Miami Heat. The Stanley Cup Final resumes tonight as the Vegas Golden Knights are looking to take a commanding 3-0 lead over the Florida Panthers. We'll have coverage beginning at 6:30 right here at 102.5, 106.3 The Game. And the Nashville Sounds are back in action down in Jacksonville this evening. Hear Jeff Hem on the call starting at 5:50 on your home of the Sounds, 94.9 The Fan. This update brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. From the Game Nashville studios, this is Ian Safar.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
A gutty performance.
Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, hour number 3. And guess what? We get one extra segment with Teron Davenport. And I posed the question. I was like, listen, I feel like I'm a little bit more down on the Titans than a lot of other people at our stations are. And we're about to get into that. But before we do, this week's Nashville's best deal is River Queen Voyages. River Queen Voyages is the most fun and unique way to see the downtown skyline from the water. Get half off a $50 gift card while they last at thegamenashville.com/deals. Get that today. I mean, you could take some booze cruise. You could take a kayaking, do all these things right on the Cumberland River downtown. It's actually pretty cool. I'm thinking about looking into it. So,
Might be a good thing.
But, TD, I teased it before. I've heard a bunch of people on the station talk about, winning records for the Titans. And that this team is right there with Jacksonville and that they're in the mix for the playoffs. And for me personally, I don't see it. So let's go through and list a few things. One of the number one things, especially on the defensive end, because you're very high on the defense this year.
Oh yeah.
I think the loss of David Long Jr. is going to be felt, and I get it. I get it. Azeez Al-Shire has come in. He's been really vocal. He's been making some plays. He's been looking good, but we're not in pads yet. And he played for that 49ers number one defense, but he was still a rotational player. And then we got Monty Rice, who was a third-round pick, and it hasn't really shown me enough. I was just so high on David Long, and I know he had the injury issues. He wasn't always there. But when he was, I mean, the way he could stuff the run, the way he could evade blockers, his playmaking in the passing game, I think at the inside linebacker position, they've taken a step back. Your thoughts on that?
And don't forget Chance Campbell as well.
Yes.
I really like Chance Campbell.
Okay.
I think he's a guy that could play athletic measures and all that off the charts. So here's the thing. David Long, I smile every time I say his name because he was always one of my favorite. Tuesdays when you finally get the All-22, et cetera, I always liked watching the end zone copy because you see him just come up and make crazy plays. He drops back into coverage very well. He pursues to the football very well. I will say this. I think Al-Shire could give you similar play. And you go back and you watch his games, he's very instinctive in coverage. He flows to the football very well. I'm not going to say he's going to give you the same energy and excitement that David Long gave you, but I mean, at least from seeing him in these practices, he seems to be a similar type of player. It's just always where he has to be and making plays. So I don't think that that's going to be as big of a loss as I initially thought before they signed Al-Shire, because if you go back and watch, they are very similar players, very, very similar as far as what they do. So I'll say that. Now, Monty Rice, I like him as a player. Like I saw a couple plays during a team period, with him in coverage. It's just as far as like understanding where to drop back to in the passing lane and those type of things. In fact, one time he did that and he made Malik tuck it and then go to his next read. Malik Willis, that is, made him tuck it and go to his next read. It's unproven though. Campbell and Monty Rice are unproven. Al-Shire is a proven product. There's no question in his ability. He's a proven product. But the other two, who's going to be beside him, that definitely is going to be something that is going to have to be figured out. When I say other two, because they're going to rotate whoever's next to Al-Shire.
Okay. All right. So you saying that gives me a little bit more confidence with him. I like I said, David Long Jr. just gave me the splash, so I will keep an open mind on this. But something that I really, really, really need to see is, are they going to get this kicking game figured out? Because Randy Bullock last year was not it. Okay, him missing that 50-yarder in SoFi that could have really given them a leg up at the end of that Chargers game, the Giants game.
Yeah,
I mean, those are just unacceptable. You got to have a guy that at minimum can hit a 53-yarder in today's game, especially if you're kicking indoors. So seeing Caleb Shudak play in the Jags game last year, he missed between a 30 and a 40-yarder. I don't know exactly what it was. And then my guy Easton Freeze is really high on this Trey Wolf kid out of Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Do you think that they're going to get the kicking game figured out this year, or is it going to be another question mark going into the season?
It's going to be tough, but I tell you, Trey Wolf has a boot. I just looked at this. I would never have thought that he was 6'4".
Really?
Yeah, that's
6'4" kicker.
He's listed as 6'4", 205, and Shudak is listed at 5'7", 177. You could definitely tell that Shudak is not the biggest guy. But like today in practice, we finally got to see both of these guys kick on the same day. Initially, it had been, okay, you see Wolf, then you see Shudak, then you see Wolf. Today we saw them both. Shudak was 7 for 7. Both guys hit from 52, 50, and 55. I'm sure you're excited about that. And it was outdoors.
But in shorts, in practice.
Hey, listen, the distance is the distance.
I hear you.
But then, so Shudak was 7 for 7. Wolf was 6 for 7. His miss was on the left hash, 42 yards out. So 14 attempts, 13 were good. It's going to be a battle that's going to continue to play out. I'm curious how that's going to work. I will say Shudak did have a couple kicks in their hurricane situation where they got to get out there, get set, and hurry up and get the kickoff, and he was good on those.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to be with the kicking situation.
Yeah, it has to.
Believe
it's
it when
unproven.
I see it. And
unproven.
in this league,
unproven.
I mean, games come down to the wire. It comes down to the 2-minute drill and who can make that final kick. And oftentimes it's between a win and a loss. And we saw that a couple times last year for the Titans. And I think it was kind of below the average of when we see it for some other teams. But it is something that I'm definitely going to be looking out for. So, but, you know, we don't got a lot of time left in the segment. Here's my number one concern. You know, a lot of people are talking about the receivers. I think that the receivers are better than what people think. But something that I think is getting a little bit overhyped, and you want to talk about unproven commodities, for me, is still the offensive line. It is going to be better than last year. Believe me, Andre Dillard is going to be better than Dennis Daly. I am not saying that. It will be an upgrade from last season with all the injuries.
So that's an upgrade at left tackle. Let's move inside the left guard.
But it needs to be more than an upgrade for me to be confident in this team. Because last year, I mean, they lost 7 games in a row when they had a 95% chance to make the playoffs. And in my opinion, it was because of the offensive line. I feel like in order for them to compete with a Jacksonville, with a Trayvon Walker, with a Josh Allen at the edge rusher position, that they are going to have to be at least middle of the pack. And with these guys, you know, Andre Dillard, he was a backup. Peter Skoronski, he's a rookie. Aaron Brewer, not used to playing the center position. We've seen him have some lapses.
He's actually played more center than guard.
In the NFL?
Throughout his career. In the NFL, he played the whole season at guard last year, but he is a more natural center than guard. He's even said that he's more comfortable there. So, but still, he hasn't proven that over a long period of time, so I'll side with you on that.
So, and you know, Daniel Brunskill, he started in San Francisco for a few years, but he lost his starting spot this past year.
Yeah, he was rotating. He was rotating,
but not a solidified start. And then Nicholas Petit-Frere, tale of two halves of the season. Again, when he had, you know, Taylor Lewan and Nate Davis and everybody was in there, and Ben Jones, he looked a little bit better. It was like his lapses weren't as apparent, but towards the tail end of the season, we saw the worst end of what he could be, and we talked about this with the receivers. Guys going into year 2, I need to see the potential that you can be a really good player.
Yeah, I think there is potential that he could be a good player. Honestly, he did have the issue with the penalties. There were some times in pass pro, he got beat. A rookie, 3rd-round draft pick, you're going to have those. I think he has potential. I think the offensive line collectively, you know, in my opinion, is going to be better, and that's a good thing. Now, are they going to be good enough to where, you know, you want to go shoe to shoe and run the football for the last 4 minutes of the game? I don't know. We'll see, but I do think they're going to be better, especially from a pass pro perspective, because you know, you put a Dillard in and a Skoronski, who's so technically sound, he's going to be okay at guard. He's going to be fine there. I think they're going to be – and Brunskill he's a solid player. I think he's going to – help solidify that too. I don't really have a huge question mark about the offensive line. I don't think that they're going to be premier, but I think they're going to be good enough.
So you think they're going to be in that middle of the pack to where they're going to do enough with a Derrick Henry, with an emerging Chigakonkwo and Traylon Burks, not mind you D-Hop because, that's not a for sure thing, but with the pieces they have right now, you think that they're going to be enough to take this offense to a different level this season?
I think the offense will be better. They're not going to score 5 points, average 5 points in the second half like they did the previous year. I think they're going to get back to that 2019, 2020, better wearing teams down and scoring more in the second half. I think you look at, in addition to that, because, the sacks and all that stuff is not just on the O-line. Your receivers got to get open. Your scheme has to get those guys open. Quarterback has to, know when there's unaccounted for pressure, know when he has to get rid of the football. Everybody has to be on the same page for hot reads. These are all things that have to happen, but at the same time, if you have a porous offensive line, you can't scheme up 5 and 7-step drop plays. You got to scrap that, and you have to go with quicker things. And I think when you look at this, you're going to see more empty. You're going to see more creativity, 12 personnel, 13 personnel, just doing things to set 22 personnel. You're going to see all these things. 22 is 2 backs, 2 tight ends. You're going to see more of these type of things, and I look forward to watching the offense evolve. And then in addition to that, the tempo side of it. That tempo naturally creates a sense of urgency. You ask any player, they'll tell you that. And when you have a sense of urgency, guess what you're doing? You're playing faster, and it changes things. So I think going to that a little bit more often is going to help. I encourage you to watch the 2019 Texans. There's a few games. I'll look them up and tell you which ones because I have it in my notebook. But watch those. They're good opportunities to see, especially like the first half of the Chiefs game. Masterfully called game by Tim Kelly.
If they didn't run that fake punt, that game would have went completely different. I remember that one.
Yeah.
But TD, we appreciate your time. Thank you for all the information. You can hear Teron Davenport every single Thursday for the TD Power Hour from 3 to 4 o'clock. We got a little extra in today, so greatly appreciate your time, TD. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
For sure, no problem.
Absolutely. Coming up next, we're going to get Adam Vingan back in here. There have been some rumors concerning a superstar on the Nashville Predators. We are going to get into all of that. Coming up next, you are listening to Stillman and Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
It's going down. It's going down. It's going down. They fight.
Jared, you're
Well, how do you know, Joe? How do you know?
And fight.
And because of that,
But how do you know that, though? But how do you know that?
But that's okay. It's Jared and Joe. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m., Jared Stillman and Joe Rexroad debate the big topics in sports. Jared versus Joe. Presented by Pella Windows and Doors and Parman Tractor and Equipment on Stillman and Company. Wednesdays at 5 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
When the game goes into overtime. But the game goes into overtime. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Pick up Bud Light at your local convenience store today. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch, Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
This Father's Day, save big at Electronic Express. Don't miss a TCL 75-inch 4K TV for just $549, or an Amana laundry pair for only $399 each. Get gifts for dad with huge savings in every department. Computers, appliances, 4K TVs, smart home, furniture and mattresses, and more. Get a Lenovo laptop for just $399, or a Traeger Pro Series grill for only $499. Get up to 3 years free financing throughout the entire store. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Do you have a VA loan? In this housing market, homeowners with VA loans have access to a ton of instant cash. Hey, Willie Donick here. Do you need cash to pay off credit cards and other high-interest loans? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto is helping veterans every day get the money they need with a quick and easy zero-cost cash-out refi with zero closing costs. With a VA loan, it's really cool because you can access up to 100% of your home's value. That's 100%. Use that money to pay off credit cards, home equity equity lines, car loan. Consolidate all your payments into one check per month and close in 2 weeks. Most homeowners who do this end up cutting their overall monthly payments by $800. And Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They're doing loans with super low APRs, and they love working with veterans. Call now. See what your options are. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Hey, Tennessee, when you bet on Zen Sports, the new sportsbook in town, you get the best reward possible, cold, hard cash. You bet with your own money, so why accept anything less from your rewards program? With Zen Sports, you earn cash on your bets, cash on your referrals bets, and a welcome bonus. You guessed it, cash. So stop settling for Vegas rewards when we're in Tennessee. Cash in your old sportsbook for Zen Sports. Your wallet will thank you later. Zen Sports. Betting just got better. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 and up and in Tennessee to bet.
Hey folks, Joe Rexroad here, letting you know about PhD Weight Loss, doctor and dietitian developed, individually delivered for me. 4 weeks, down 14 pounds. I feel great. I'm loving the food items they provide. I'm using no pills, no gimmicks, no other suppressants. This feels good and it feels sustainable, and that's the point. It's a huge thing for people who want to lose weight. You want to keep it off. That is the priority here. I mentioned some of those products. My favorites: the peanut butter chocolate cereal, the pancakes, the broccoli cheddar soup, and the protein bars of a variety of flavors are absolutely delicious. This is simple and easy. It involves weekly phone discussions with a coach. 85% of that food is provided. No cravings, no crap, no problem, but there is a guarantee. If you don't get within 5 pounds of your target weight at the end of your program, PhD will continue to coach you for free until you do. Check them out. Visit PhD at myphdweightloss.com. Again, myphdweightloss.com.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025thegame and on Instagram at 1025thegame Nashville.
Hey!
Oh, yeah, and like us on Facebook, too. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From what you know, your interpretation of the situation and what you know about the situation, what do you think is a quote-unquote good enough offer for the Predators and UC Saros?
Carolyn, I don't know if I can say exactly, but put it this way. I do. I think if he gets traded, then you're going to look at the deal and you're going to say, holy smokes. That's the only way I see it happening. I think the Kings called them at the deadline to see what was available there. Obviously, it didn't happen, and I don't think that's going to change unless they get something that blows them off their feet. I really don't. I would be surprised if it's anything less than that.
That was Elliot Friedman earlier today on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace talking about the rumors of Saros, UC Saros, goalie for the Nashville Predators, being traded this offseason. And he doesn't think it's going to be very likely that is going to happen, that the Preds would essentially have to get their doors blown off in order for them to make a move like that. We got Adam Vingan back in here. Thanks to Teron Davenport for coming in and doing an hour of Titans talk with us. But Adam, when you heard these rumors that the Preds were talking to the Kings about potential dealings for UC Saros, what was your initial thoughts when you heard that?
It makes sense because the Kings were in the market for a goaltender at the trade deadline. Now, what I thought was interesting was the initial report about the talks between the Kings and the Predators were reported by David Pagnotta of the Fourth Period. And then John Rosen, who actually used to work for the Los Angeles Kings as their in-house reporter, who now covers the team independently, confirmed the report and said that the conversations also involved Matthias Ekholm. So it appeared that, according to those reports, the Kings were interested in acquiring Ekholm and Saros simultaneously. When that didn't happen, presumably, the Kings pivoted and they ended up acquiring a goaltender and a defenseman in the same trade with the Columbus Blue Jackets. They acquired Joonas Korpisalo, and Vladislav Gavrikov for Jonathan Quick, a 2023 first-round pick and a 2024 third-round pick. The difference, of course, between those two players and the potential Ekholm-Saros deal that was reported, Ekholm and Saros still have term left on their contracts. Korpisalo and Gavrikov were both unrestricted free agents. Now the Kings went ahead and signed Gavrikov to a 2-year contract the other day. But Korpisalo is not expected to return to the Kings. So I was not surprised to see that the Predators and Kings had talked about Saros, just because Saros, to me, is the Predators' only true valuable player asset. I'm not talking about draft picks. I'm talking about an actual human being. I think UC Saros is their only true valuable trade asset, because they moved other ones at the trade deadline. They moved Matthias Ekholm. They moved Nino Niederreiter. They moved Tanner Jeannot. When you look at the active Predators roster, there really isn't anyone on that roster other than, in my opinion, UC Saros, that would make a team come up with a package like the one that Elliot is describing that would blow your socks off, so to speak. I don't feel that way about Philip Forsberg. Don't feel that way about Roman Josi. Don't feel that way about Matt Duchene, Ryan Johansson. Don't feel that way about any of the young players, including Yaroslav Askarov. I feel that UC Saros, if the Predators want to undergo a significant rebuild and want to accumulate multiple high-end assets, to me, trading UC Saros is really their only card to play.
And you've been on this for a while now. I mean, I feel like you were the first you're one of the more well-known names that cover the Predators here in town. And I felt like you were the first person to really come out and say that. And you said that even before the trade deadline, before they started making moves, because they didn't start making moves until about a week before the deadline came about.
Yes.
And so where the roster sits right now, with all the moves that have been made and the assets that they've accumulated and the cap space that they have, would you still be on board to move a UC Saros?
Yes, unequivocally. It's not even a hesitation. If the right player comes along, I would not even hesitate to do it.
I think Willie is scrambling for aspirin right now.
Because here's why. When you look at the Stanley Cup playoffs currently, when you look at the top team, if you just want to look at the Florida Panthers and the Vegas Golden Knights, Sergei Bobrovsky is the highest paid goaltender in the league by his salary. I believe he has the second highest cap hit behind Carey Price. And Bobrovsky went on an absolute tear through the first, second, and third rounds. He's been shelled quite a bit in these first two games in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But, for the most part, he was a below-average goaltender during the regular season. Adin Hill is the Vegas Golden Knights' third-string goaltender. You do not need an elite goaltender to win the Stanley Cup. You need a goaltender who can play at an elite level for a certain period of time. So it's a luxury that the Predators have an elite goaltender like UC Saros, and make no mistake about it, UC Saros is an elite goaltender. But I think more importantly, you need players who can score. And if a player who can score is available for UC Saros, I would do it in a heartbeat. And at some point in this hour, I sent this to Ian. Maybe we can get into it. Justin Bourne and Nick Kyprios, who host a sports talk show on Sportsnet Toronto Radio, we're talking about this today, about UC Saros as a potential match with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we'll get into that conversation. But because we talked about this a few weeks ago, if a player like William Nylander, for example, is available for UC Saros, I will drive UC Saros to the airport. That is a move I make without any hesitation. I just think that for as good as UC Saros is, I just don't know if you want to re-sign him after this particular contract if you're confident that Yaroslav Askarov in 2 years is going to be ready to take that mantle. So, yes, I am firmly on the trade UC Saros train. I don't know if as you claim, I don't know if I'm the first person on that train, but I'm firmly driving that train the trade UC Saros train.
615-737-1025. Adam Vingan is all for trading UC Saros and getting all the assets that the Predators can possibly get to rebuild. We want you to weigh in on the Wilson County Hyundai text line. I will also be giving my opinion on this as well. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studio. You are listening to Stillman & Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
Ball right to score. Yoshi sets up Matt.
All the big stories.
For the Predators, are you holding on to what you got, or are you selling some guys off?
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Green flag is in the air.
It may not happen that way every game.
His shot stopped.
Gotta play better, gotta coach better.
TD Tigers.
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Do you ever feel like gambling is causing financial strain or hurting your relationships? The Gambling Clinic has been helping people who want to change their gambling habits for over 2 decades. With physical clinics and remote online appointments, we're here to help you make informed decisions about your gambling so it doesn't lead to a bigger problem. Visit us at thegamblingclinic.com so we can work together to help you win your life back. This project is funded by the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services.
High interest rates may be the norm everywhere else, but right now at Genesis Diamonds, we're always thinking about our customers, and we've decided to slash interest rates down to 0% for 5 years. That means you can get those diamond earrings, that designer engagement ring, or that luxury pre-owned Rolex and spread your payments over 5 whole years without paying a dime in interest. Birthdays, anniversaries, just because gifts starting as low as $35 a month, and that's with 0 down. Now through July 1st only, and only at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. Approved credit, see store for details.
Does this sound familiar? Did your agent provide excellent entertainment with their TikTok videos and constant social media posts about themselves while completely ignoring that you hired them to sell your home? Did they tell you how wonderful they were? How many followers they had? They probably never sold your home, but hey, they did get 15 likes on their selfies. Hashtag my clients love me. Don't let that happen to you. Google TJ Anderson Homes and see why the only likes we care about are our clients loving our service. Ask us about our prepay with TJ option and how it can save you thousands. TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Office number 615-432-2919.
Family Leisure is having a come out and play sale.
That's right. Family Leisure is inviting you to come out and play with a new swimming pool, spa, or patio furniture set.
Family Leisure has hundreds of pools in stock and on sale. DIY pools start at only $16.99. 24-foot pools are only $29.99 installed.
Installation in less than 10 days on average.
More than 100 spas in stock and ready for immediate delivery. Artesian Strong and LBI Spa starting at only $29.99.
What about the patio furniture?
Family Leisure has hundreds of sets in stock and on sale. Hanneman, Woodard, Trabatone, and Loft, all ready for immediate delivery.
Family Leisure also has the Sabre Infrared Grill in stock and on sale at only $14.99, and the Bull Grill Islands at only $39.99.
And Family Leisure has the Diamond Point Play Gym at only $24.99 installed and ready for immediate delivery.
Pool tables, massage chairs, and theater seating all on sale and ready for immediate delivery.
Come out and play at both huge locations, Franklin and Antioch.
Buffalo Bill's Center of the West in Cody, Wyoming welcomes you as you enter Yellowstone Park's east entrance. 5 museums in one, including a wonderful Plains Indian Museum. Welcome to the West. Buffalo Bill's Center of the West, Cody, Wyoming.
The NBA's best battle for the ultimate prize.
NBA champions.
Every big bucket.
3-pointers right side is good.
Every big stop.
The steal rejected.
We are your home for the NBA Finals. Presented by Superbook Sports. Hear every game on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is Vanderbilt head coach Jerry Stackhouse. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
So, know you're a big Marner guy and, think he's excellent and believe in him and many in Toronto do. Let's say in a hypothetical that he were the guy to go for Saros.
Yeah.
Who has to attach more to that trade? Marner also has 2 years left on his deal at just under 11. Marner is elite. He's been voted the best right winger in the league 2 of the last 3 years. does Nashville have to throw in more, or because Saros is so cheap, does that offset some of it?
I would think Marner has more value than Saros straight up.
I do too. So
absolutely. 100-point guy.
Yeah.
Top winger.
25 years old.
Yes.
26, whatever he is.
Yeah.
That's so I would be curious what that would look like.
There's 30 games. Saros doesn't play.
Yeah, great point. And if you're Nashville, like that's tempting. So then I wonder with Nylander, if you have to do like a sign and trade, if they have to know that they get him, because that to me is a more 1-for-1 type of trade, but they would have to know that they have Nylander under contract beyond that to make that trade probably.
Welcome back into Stillman and Company. Junie Riddle and Adam Vingan filling in for Jared Stillman. That was Justin Bourne and Nick Kiprios from Sportsnet 590 Toronto talking about a potential trade, Saros for Nylander. And that's the topic of the day for the Nashville Predators, has been the mentions of UC Saros potentially getting dealt. And, Adam has been on this early, and I really respect Adam's opinion on the Preds. But even before Adam had come out and discussed this, I had always kind of in the back of my mind, knowing that this Nashville Predators team had Askarov playing for the Milwaukee Admirals and how high people are on him and the potential that he could reach. And not only that, but the history the Nashville Predators have had with goaltenders. And I thought with the direction that this team is going, why not move off of Saros, especially when you have a great bridge goaltender in Kevin Lankinen that you can hold on to until Askarov is ready to take that starting mantle. So, Adam, I actually do agree with you on this, that I believe that the Predators, if they want to go into full rebuild mode, that trading Saros, knowing that you have a top-notch prospect like Yaroslav Askarov, would be the best move for this organization. And it seems to me it is quite unpopular.
Well, UC Saros is a fan favorite. He's been a Vezina Trophy finalist. Quite frankly, he should have been a Vezina Trophy finalist this season as well. He wasn't. Blame the general managers. They're the ones that vote on this award. But the Predators are not going to be competitive for the remainder of UC Saros' contract. When I say competitive, now this is a conversation that it can be a bit touchy, especially on this station. Our dear friend Willie Donick, I think, is a firm believer of being competitive means making the playoffs, because if you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. And people who believe that will look at what the Florida Panthers are doing right now and say, see, that's an example with, let's just gloss over the fact that they won the President's Trophy last season. I am not in that camp. To me, competitive means, does your team have a legitimate chance of winning the Stanley Cup? That's, to me, what competitive means. The Nashville Predators are not going to be competitive these next 2 seasons, the final 2 seasons of UC Saros' contract. So to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to hold on to him. And as you said, Kevin Lankinen, a perfectly adequate, average NHL goaltender. And look, if they trade UC Saros, which I like Elliot says, it's more likely than not that UC Saros stays put. And I think that makes sense. But UC Saros is also doing one other thing. UC Saros is holding this team back from being truly bad, that they could go and draft at the top of the draft, which they haven't done in almost 10 years since they drafted Seth Jones at number 4. So to me, I don't know if where this team is in its trajectory. I honestly do not see a reason why they should keep UC Saros, because I think UC Saros is too good to keep this team from taking as many steps back as I think they should to put themselves into a position to draft at the top of the draft. So to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to keep UC Saros. It doesn't have if it doesn't happen. I'm not saying it has to happen this summer, but 2 years left, $5 million cap hit. There are 12 goalies in the NHL who have a higher cap hit next season than UC Saros. Guarantee his new team 2 years of cost-controlled elite goaltending. go for it. I'm on board with it.
Glenn on the text line says, trade UC Saros for a first and a first-line center only. Kyle on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, I'm all for it. I would try to trade him before the draft. Let's do this rebuild right and get as much capital as possible. By the time this team is competitive again, Askarov will be in net.
Yeah.
And I personally
Precisely.
agree. And I think another point that we haven't brought up yet is the fact that UC Saros' value could be at its peak this offseason. You know, what does Andrew Burnett and Barry Trotz want to do? They want to become more fast-paced and offensive-centric. And I feel like that could have some ramifications in the goaltending statistics. Do you think that could leave Saros a little bit more susceptible next season with them trying to run a different system, and maybe if, you know, a few more pucks slide into that net behind him, that his value could go down, and then that in turn could hurt if the Predators did want to eventually move off of him?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point, just because if you look at how the Florida Panthers played under Andrew Burnett last season, they were more of a run-and-gun team versus the tight checking, cycling, forechecking team that the Predators, were under John Hines. So, I would expect a more entertaining product with Andrew Burnett as coach. But as you said, with a younger team going up and down the ice, theoretically, UC Saros might see some more action, and he already saw quite a bit anyway. But he'll have to be even better. So yes, you would think that on the surface, if a team is playing a looser, quote unquote, style of game going up and down the ice, that it's going to leave their goaltender a bit more susceptible to high quality chances on the other end. So, I think that's a valid point. And I've seen a text on the text line saying that scoring didn't help Edmonton win in the postseason, which is true. They ended up playing Stuart Skinner in the postseason, and they were out in the second round. Doesn't matter how many goals Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid scored. That's very true. But I would ask you to go back and look at the most recent Stanley Cup champions and look at their goaltender, look at the rest of their team. So last season, the Colorado Avalanche, Darcy Kemper was their starting goaltender. Perfectly fine, above average. He wasn't great in the postseason, but you know who was? Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar and the rest of them. Now, Andrei Vasilevsky, elite goaltender for the Tampa Bay Lightning, but Nikita Kucherov, Steven Stamkos, Braden Point, the topic of a goal. You don't need an elite goaltender to win. You just need a goaltender to play like an elite goaltender for a few weeks, few months. Jordan Binnington in St. Louis hasn't been the same since that one run that he had at the perfect time to help the Blues win the Stanley Cup. So to me, I think of course, goaltending is important, but it's not the end all be all. I mean, teams win. The Washington Capitals won 5 years ago. Braden Holtby played great, but he's by no means an elite goaltender. They had Alex Ovechkin, Nicholas Backstrom, Evgeny Kuznetsov. This team does not have the forwards to win when it counts. It's been that way for, honestly, most of their history. And trading a player like UC Saros could help the Predators get that forward, and that's why I'm on board for it.
And I think something that Elliot Friedman touched on earlier today on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace was saying that, UC Saros kind of is in that goaltending category where he really plays too many games to make a long postseason run. We're seeing, teams that are kind of, getting to the conference finals and getting to the Stanley Cup where they have two goaltenders that can come in and a backup goalie that can play upwards to 25 to 30 games. And right now, UC Saros in the last two seasons, he played 67 games last year, which, wound up knocking him out before the postseason. And really, if he didn't get hurt in the last few games at the end of the year, he might have played even more. But then you also look at this year, the only goaltender that played more than him was Connor Hellebuck in Winnipeg, and still UC was starting 64 games. So I look at this as it's a give and take. You need elite goaltending in the playoffs, but you don't necessarily need an elite goaltender. And you're not going to get far in the playoffs unless you have that offensive production. So it's a give and take, and I think with where the Predators are, having an elite goaltender that's playing so many games and literally just kind of wearing himself down, there's not really a better time to look to trade an asset like that to kind of get the most out of it, knowing that you have such a valuable prospect coming up in the ranks. So it's just something to talk about, And again, we don't know what they plan to do. The draft coming up and everything, that could be a time that some more movement can come out. But as of right now, we don't know what the Predators will do.
No, and I do think, to your point, that the Predators have leaned on UC Saros a little bit too much, especially last season, because they had David Riddick as a backup who, just to demonstrate how unreliable he was, he started, one game in the playoffs, and then Connor Ingram took over. Kevin Lankinen did a much better job, but they still relied on UC Saros a lot. And I do think that fatigue can play a factor down the stretch. I remember after last season, UC Saros, a lot of questions about his workload leading to the injury that knocked him out of the playoffs and whether he was, maybe playing more than he should have. And he said, if I felt like I couldn't play, if I was fatigued, I would have said something to the coaching staff. But I just think that where this team is right now, having an elite goaltender, honestly, and this, maybe I'm crazy for saying this, I actually think it might hold them back a little bit, because I think this team, I am firmly in the camp that this team, and I'm not saying the dreaded T word, I'm not saying the Predators should tank, but I am firmly in the camp that this team will not get truly better until it allows itself to get worse. It's started that process, but I don't think it will fully get into it unless UC Saros is not on this team.
615-737-1025 is our phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We want to hear your options, because coming up next, Adam and I are going to get into possible trade partners and what would be a valuable return for a guy as valuable as UC Saros. You are listening to Stillman and Company. We will get into that next. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
When it comes to Nashville sports,
locking up Jeffrey Simmons, clearly that was a priority for them.
He knows his stuff.
A little bit good, a little bit bad.
And knows how to push the right buttons.
He's coming off an ACL tear, and he's 25 years old, so you cannot ignore that.
Join Outkick's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and Company. Withrow,
what I hate more than anything is people that are phony and not true to themselves,
is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's the first day of the first grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon you wish would never end.
The homemade taste of Bluebell and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
Your taste buds will be best buds with Dr. Pepper Float Ice Cream from Bluebell. The rich taste of creamy vanilla ice cream swirled together with the one-of-a-kind flavor of delicious Dr. Pepper. Treat yourself to a pint or half-gallon today.
The good old days are being made right now.
The good old days are being made right now.
Look for Bluebell Ice Cream at select Piggly Wiggly stores and select Buy Right food stores.
The team at Mercedes-Benz of Music City have done it again. Here's Edwin Vickery to explain.
4-time recipient of Best of the Best. Less than 10% of the dealers in the country receive this award. How did you do it? We say culture eats strategy for lunch, because we can strategize all we want, but unless you have the right culture and chemistry in the dealership, it will not work.
Live the dream at Mercedes-Benz of Music City, mbofmc.com.
Music City will be rocking June 23rd through the 25th with a different sound, the sound of NASCAR.
Start your engine!
The Ally 400 is back at Nashville Superspeedway, and this year, it's a night race. NASCAR in Nashville. It's guitars and fast cars under the lights. Visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com to get your tickets for the triple header weekend, including the Ally 400, Tennessee Lottery 250, and the Rackley Roofing 200 today.
Calling a criminal defense lawyer or a divorce lawyer, you may think it's the worst day of your life. It doesn't have to be. If you have quality, competent representation who can guide you through a complex system, we can do that for you, despite if you've been arrested for a DUI or a robbery charge, whether or not you're going through a divorce or a post-divorce, or demanding your fundamental constitutional right to parent your children. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
Hey, it's Jared from my friends at Hiller. Hiller's Heat Wave Heroes are keeping you from getting burned this summer. If you know your home needs an air conditioning replacement, do not wait until it breaks down. You do not want to be sweating in your home. This month, get a free UV light and free electronic air cleaner when you buy select new HVAC systems. Or get a whole home water filtration for just $59 a month. Or get a new whole home generator for just $139 a month. Call Hiller's Heat Wave Heroes to save the day. Visit happyhiller.com to book.
They combine hard-hitting journalism.
Titans have actually made a move, finalizing a one-year deal.
Strong-willed opinions.
No, I disagree. No, I totally disagree with that.
And sometimes, some old man takes...
Don't want those cooked carrots that are 5 days old.
To create the perfect morning show, they are Robbie and Rex Road. Mornings from 6 to 9. Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3. The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Well, the Kings definitely kicked the tires on him at the trade deadline. I think they did the same for Thatcher Demko from the Vancouver Canucks as well. That's a position that, they kind of lucked out with last year with getting a really good run from Phoenix Copley after Jonathan Quick kind of had his tenure there end. And so, they clearly need a new solution in goal. And Saros is, along with Connor Hellebuck and along with Thatcher Demko, I think the three names that you always hear as far as if you are looking to dramatically upgrade your goaltending position, maybe go after one of those guys. I think the Predators are obviously in a real position of strength here. I mean, he's a franchise goalie. He can play upwards of 65 games in a season. The Kings are in a really good spot, though. I mean, they've been a team that has managed its cap well, including that trade that we saw this week with the Flyers that enabled them to sign Gavrikov yesterday. They still have cap space available, and they also have still a collection of really good prospects that are all kind of ripening, let's call it, at the same time. So if there was to be a match with the Predators, I mean, I think the Kings do have a number of assets that could be intriguing in a package for a player of UC Saros' abilities. And I do think that the good thing about the Kings is it wouldn't be just a bunch of draft picks coming back the other way. It could be some players that could help right away.
That was Greg Wyshynski earlier today on Chase and Michelle with Nick Keyser filling in for Chase McKay. But he brings up some crazy points about this Predators team, and how at the trade deadline when David Poile came out and said that Saros was off limits, that was not the case according to some sources. Now, Keyser hit me up before the show and he's like, I need you to look at Michael Gallagher's article that he wrote on Nashville Hockey Now. And I'm going to quote the article. It says, a Hockey Now source, firsthand knowledge of the situation confirmed that the Nashville Predators and Los Angeles Kings had discussions prior to the trade deadline about a possible deal for Saros. Nashville's asking price started with 2 first-round picks in 2023 plus more, a deal that L.A. balked at, ending the discussion. So, with all this narrative going around UC Saros and the Predators kind of going into a bit of a rebuild, like you said, we're not going to use the tanking word, but, they're in a bit of a transition. New coach, new GM, moving off some assets, and obviously UC Saros, their most valuable asset, is going to be in those conversations. So we teased it before we went to the break, Adam. Obviously, the LA Kings are one of the teams involved in this, but do you have some other teams that you think that would be in on this mix if the Predators were looking to trade UC Saros this offseason?
First, I just want to say that I agree with Greg, the last point he made in that clip, that the Predators have enough futures They got enough at the trade deadline, and by that I mean draft picks and prospects. If this hypothetical trade were to happen, I think it's imperative that what comes back are young NHL-ready players who can be in the Predators lineup immediately. They have enough draft picks. They got a ton for Tanner Jeannot. They got some from Matthias Ekholm. For me, it's, the draft picks can be part of the package of this hypothetical package, but to me, it needs to be headlined by at least one young 20-something NHL-ready player. And the Kings have those types of players. They have Quentin Byfield, for example, who was a top pick a few years ago, who was playing on the Kings' top line with Anze Kopitar and Adrian Kempe. That's the type of player, someone who can become a future building block that you don't need to wait for, someone who can immediately play. But when I think about other teams, I think about contending teams that could use a goaltender of UC Saros' caliber to get over the hump. The Kings are one. The Carolina Hurricanes are another, because they have two veteran goaltenders in Freddie Anderson and Antti Ranta, both of whom I believe are unrestricted free agents. The New Jersey Devils are one. Vitek Vanacek, lost his job during the postseason at one point to Akira Schmid. They're another team. Edmonton's always a popular choice just because they haven't been able to get over the hump with Hunter McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Buffalo is another team that's looking to make a move, try to get back into the playoffs for the first time in more than a decade. So there are plenty of teams out there that could use a goaltender like UC Saros. So, those are just some of the teams off the top of my head. But when it comes to what I would want in return, Toronto, we had a cut from Toronto. Let's throw Toronto in there too. To me, it starts with a player in his early 20s who has NHL experience that can be in your lineup right away and can become a potential future core member of this team. That, I'm not looking for multiple first-round picks. I mean, the first-round pick can be part of it, but, this is not a draft pick trade for me. This is a get me an asset I can put in my lineup immediately type of trade.
So do you think Greg is right when he says that the Los Angeles Kings have some of the better prospects, young guys that are really at the edge of making that break into the NHL?
Yes.
That would be probably the most likely suitor for something that you're proposing right now to get UC Saros.
Yes, I think the Kings are. I think the Kings are a good example. They've got young prospects with NHL experience, and they have a need for a goalie. So, yes, I think the Kings offer a lot of what the Predators are looking for, hence why when the reports came out that they discussed a potential trade, it made sense to me.
Now, with these prospects for the Kings, would they immediately come in and be a part of the Predators organization now, or would they be down there in Milwaukee? Because something that I've been hearing from others is that, well, you trade off UC Saros and you're going to be pathetic for a couple years. Do you think that initially, if they were to make the trade, that there would be a couple down years and then it would get better? Or do you think that these trade assets that they would get from an LA, from an Edmonton, from one of these buyers, that they could come in and make an immediate impact for this Preds team?
Oh, I mean, if the Predators trade UC Saros, they're going to be bad. They're definitely not going to make the playoffs. But I think that's the point. To me, this team, and I know that based on the interviews I've heard Barry Trotz do on this station, they don't seem particularly interested in that, which is fine. They want a team to be competitive. They don't want to put a bad product on the ice. I get that. But, I think that if the Predators can trade UC Saros for an asset, let's talk about William Nylander for a second, because that's the cut we played from Nick Kyprios and Justin Bourne. To me, William Nylander, who's been in the league for a few years now, is a proven scorer. I think William Nylander, easy for me to say, is an elite offensive player. Is he the greatest defensive player? No, but you have players who can do that. You don't have a player like William Nylander. William Nylander would instantly become the best forward on this team, bar none. And, he is the type of player who is available at the top of a draft. So if a trade like that were to materialize and William Nylander could come here, then then you don't have to be bad to get a player like that. But to me, I just think that, the Predators' hesitance to be that bad, I think is going to prevent them from, I think is going to prevent them from reaching their goal. I mean, it might take longer, but I think they're more likely than not to get to where they want to go if they're able to acquire or specifically draft a player of that caliber in the lottery.
There you have it. The rumors of UC Saros are heightening up, and I think it's only going to get more and more intense as we get closer to the NHL draft, which will be right here in Nashville at Bridgestone Arena. But coming up next, I had a very hot take that I gave on Memorial Day when me and Nick Keyser were filling in. I want to retouch on that take, even though I know it is going to upset a lot of Titans fans. We are going to get into that next. You're listening to Stillman & Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
The offseason is in full swing, but there's no slowing down ESPN's Teron Davenport.
The flow of information.
He talks the talk.
Spears gives you that guy that can still hit the home run.
And walks the walk.
As a run blocker, he's going to murder a linebacker at the second level.
On everything Titans, TD is on Mondays at 1, Thursdays at 3, Friday mornings at 8, and anytime on the Talkin' with TD podcast. TD is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Heard that phrase, less is more? Well, at Harbor Freight, it's more for less. That's why everything in our store is priced affordably. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight. And now, when you buy a Bauer 20-volt battery and charger for $99.98, you'll get to choose a select Bauer 20-volt tool to go with it for free. Yep, more for less. Harbor Freight. Offer and pricing valid in-store and on in-stock items only from now until June 30th. While supplies last, selection varies by location. Cannot be combined with other discounts or promotions. Free tool limited to select items only.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
102.5 The Game and Green Trees Company Dispensary want to send you to see Bryan Adams at Bridgestone Arena. Saturday, June 17th, with very special guest Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Listen all week long to Robbie and Rexroad for your cue to call to win tickets to Bryan Adams and Joan Jett at Bridgestone Arena.
Now, your Game Center update.
Brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. The Tennessee Titans wrapped up minicamp today. Safety Kevin Byard addressed the media today and talked about why he missed some of camp earlier this offseason.
Very comfortable within the defense. I had stayed in communication with the coaches this entire offseason about any new stuff that we had, any nuances that was coming out within the defense. But I had been enjoying training on my own and felt it was very important. And it really was never any doubt from the coaches and my end that, I wasn't going to be here for minicamp. I knew I was going to be here and be the same player that I always been, be the same leader that I always will be.
In the NBA Finals last night, it was Denver taking a 2-1 series lead over the Miami Heat. The Stanley Cup Final resumes tonight as the Vegas Golden Knights are looking to take a commanding 3-0 lead over the Florida Panthers. We'll have coverage beginning at 6:30 right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. And the Nashville Sounds are back in action down in Jacksonville this evening. Hear Jeff Hem on the call starting at 5:50 on your home of the Sounds, 94.9 The Fan. This update brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. From the Game Nashville studios, this is Ian Safar.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Robbie and Rex Road. Chase and Michelle.
Caroline, Willie, D-Bay.
Stillman and Company. Nashville's best sports talk.
Crank it up.
102.5 and 106.3.
Crank City score. On both sides of the ball. One big possession.
Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, final hour. Junie Riddle, Adam Vingan in for Jared Stillman, who is on vacation, live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical studio. I teased it before the break, and I said this is going to get a lot of people mad. And Joe Rexroad had a Rex rant, and to be honest with you, I forget what he was ranting about, but somehow my name got brought up into it. And the texter said, Junie, weren't you for trading Tannehill and playing Will Levis? And this is a take that I had on Memorial Day when Nick Keyser and I were filling in while everybody else was off. We were on from 9 to noon, did a 3-hour show. And over that weekend, the news came out about Jimmy Garoppolo and his injury that he was having. And while everybody was focused on Brady, and I'm one that thinks that Brady's actually retired this time, I don't think Brady's going to hop up and come out of retirement. The first thought that came to my mind when I heard that Jimmy Garoppolo might not be ready for the start of the season, it wasn't like I was thinking about it beforehand, but it was, would they be interested in Ryan Tannehill? And it's like, oh my gosh, why would you think that? Why would you think that? Ryan Tannehill's our guy. Will Levis played for Kentucky. He absolutely sucks. Why would you think that? I've been on Will Levis before just about anybody at this station outside of Michelle Knesvik who graduated from the University of Kentucky. I born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. I was a Louisville Cardinals fan my entire life. And even today, I am still a Louisville Cardinals fan who could not stand Will Levis when he was at Kentucky. But as a pro prospect, I have been faithful and high on his ability to be a legitimate QB in the NFL. Now, the news that has come out about Will Levis as of late, with the really bad OTA practice where he fumbled a snap and missed a net target that looked really bad. He threw the ball over the net. I'm not here for it, Adam. I'm not here for it. Listen, you can talk to me about guys looking bad in shorts and basically a T-shirt jersey in May and June all you want. It doesn't matter. And I have people on the text line right now that are making fun of me because they know I grew up a Steelers fan. And they're talking about Kenny Pickett. And I'll bring up Kenny Pickett for an example. Last year when Kenny Pickett got drafted with the number 20th overall pick, they immediately put him at the third-string position behind Mitch Trubisky and Mason Rudolph. And to start the OTAs and minicamp, and even to begin training camp, he was the third-best quarterback on the roster. By the end of the season, it was hands down that Kenny Pickett was the best QB on the team. And my point of the matter is that quarterbacks take a second to maturate. It takes them a while to get their footing under them. It takes them a while to build confidence, to adjust to the speed of the game, the different coverages, the different looks that they're going to get. And for me personally, when I look at Ryan Tannehill, I just don't see the upside. And everybody says, last year Ryan Tannehill looked so good before he got hurt. Did he really? Because if memory serves me correctly, he started 4 of those games in that 7-game losing streak. If memory serves me, he was 6-6 as a starter, and he only threw 13 touchdown passes. In 12, what is that, a touchdown a game? He averaged 208 yards a game. Now, granted, was everything around him good? No, it absolutely was not. The offensive line was atrocious. Dennis Daly was a turn cycle that was just allowing edge rushers dancing around him at all times. I get it. Ryan Tannehill did not have the best supporting cast last season. But in this league nowadays, you need a quarterback with some elite upside, and that is something that Will Levis has. Also, look at your division. Trevor Lawrence is going into year 3. Technically, for me, it's year 2 because I'm throwing away the Urban Meyer year. I'm just absolutely tossing it out. It didn't even happen. He now has Doug Peterson at the helm, who won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. This guy is one of the best offensive minds. What we saw from Trevor Lawrence in the second half of the season and how he grew into his own is only going to progress in another full offseason with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And oh, wait, they get Calvin Ridley as well, who before he got suspended for the gambling when he took a break from the league when he was playing for the Falcons, was getting over 1,000 yards and becoming an elite receiver himself. And all accounts, he's doing the same thing. Now let's look at the Colts and let's look at the Texans. With the 2nd overall pick, the Texans took C.J. Stroud. With the 3rd overall pick, the Colts drafted Anthony Richardson. And by all reports coming out of those camps, both of those guys are going to be playing this year. Ryan Tannehill's contract is up. We already talked about how the Titans are going to have $93.8 million in cap space next year. And that's because contracts like Derrick Henry, contracts like Ryan Tannehill, and others are going to be expiring. This is the last year the Titans with this core are truly going to be going for it. And my question to the fans is, do you want to be behind everybody else in your division? Do you want to hold Will Levis out for mediocre Ryan Tannehill and win 7, 8, maybe 9 games if you're lucky? Now, granted, if you get DeAndre Hopkins, that's obviously going to help, but we're talking about where the team is at right now. Derrick Henry is 29 years old. I have compiled a list of elite running backs from the 2000s and the 2010s of their seasons compared to when they were 29 to when they are 30. It is a huge drop-off. I'm going to give you a few reasons why I think Will Levis should play over Ryan Tannehill. Maybe not to start the season, but at least some point in the season. A rookie's best friend is a running game. If you have a running game that goes along with a rookie quarterback, that's going to take the pressure off immensely. You're going to see 8, 9 players in the box. And with Chigakonkwo and Treylon Burks, and hopefully we see what we see in training camp from Kyle Phillips in the regular season, that's going to open up a lot of one-on-one options that is going to help Will Levis and bring his confidence. Will Levis doesn't have a 5th-year option like Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud. Those are big advantages that your opponents are having, and they are already putting those guys in the game to see what they have. QBs, like Will Levis, coming from the University of Kentucky, which is a basketball school, is primarily where a lot of these elite quarterbacks come from. Drew Brees came from Purdue. Phillip Rivers, NC State. Mahomes, Texas Tech. Josh Allen, Wyoming. Lamar Jackson, Louisville. Ben Roethlisberger, Miami of Ohio. These guys that come from primary basketball schools or non-football powerhouses in general have to come over a lot of adversity. And believe me, Will Levis did. Will Levis had to deal with turf toe. He had a shoulder injury. He had 4 offensive linemen turn over from his really good 2021 campaign to his somewhat lackadaisical 2022 campaign. He had a brand new OC that got fired because they were absolutely terrible. Will Levis has played through adversity. He was playing with true freshman receivers last year that didn't have the experience like he did when he had a Wan'Dale Robinson that ended up getting drafted to the New York Giants in the second round. Will Levis has played through adversity. And I think when you see his size, his mobility, his arm strength, and yes, he needs to work on the touch on his balls. I truly believe that getting him some experience and getting him in the game with a Derrick Henry while he's still playing at an elite level, with Treylon Burks when he's coming at his own, getting these guys some experience. Because obviously you drafted this guy 33rd overall for a reason, because he's supposed to be the future. I truly believe that he can come into his own, and getting him experience, although Ryan Tannehill might play better this year, that it is more important to get Will Levis and this young core ready to build on for this season than it is to win 8 or 9 games with Ryan Tannehill. 615-737-1025. I'm going to get your opinions on our phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I want to get Adam Vingan's response to this. I know I just completely took over this segment, but they were asking for it. They wanted to know my opinion on it. And here you have it, 615-737-1025. What do you think of this opinion that Will Levis should be playing sooner rather than later? You're listening to Stillman and Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman and Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
A tribute to Ronnie Millsap. The final Nashville show, October 3rd at Bridgestone Arena. A tribute to Ronnie Millsap, featuring performances by Kelly Clarkson, Little Big Town, Parker McCullum, Scotty McCreery, Justin Moore, Tracy Lawrence, and more than 30 guest artists. Tickets on sale this Friday morning at 10 at Ticketmaster. A tribute to Ronnie Millsap, the final Nashville show. One night only, October 3rd, Bridgestone Arena. Produced by Outback Presents.
It's the first day of the first grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon you wish would never end.
The homemade taste of Bluebell and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
Your taste buds will be best buds with Dr. Pepper Float Ice Cream from Bluebell. The rich taste of creamy vanilla ice cream swirled together with the one-of-a-kind flavor of delicious Dr. Pepper. Treat yourself to a pint or half-gallon today.
The good old days are being made right now.
The good old days are being made right now.
Look for Bluebell Ice Cream at Murphy's CB and Food Saver in Fairview.
Interest rates may be high everywhere else, but now at Genesis Diamonds, you can get 0 interest on any purchase. 5 years, 0 interest financing with nothing down. Beautiful eternity bands, 1-carat diamond stud earrings, and more. Starting at only $50 a month. At Genesis, we are always looking for ways to do more for our amazing customers. So don't miss this. 5 years, 0 interest financing. Imagine that $6,000 designer ring is just $100 a month. We'll even finance the sales tax. Now through July 1st only. And only at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. On approved credit, see store for details.
Men, this is Evan Bass for the Tennessee Men's Clinic. If you're suffering with erectile dysfunction or other sexual health issues, you need to know that there is no one-size-fits-all treatment because everyone's made differently. That's why our urologists and medical providers offer a broader array of treatment options and can even combine or adjust treatments for greater effectiveness. ED can result from aging, low testosterone, prostate issues, underlying medical conditions, and more. And understanding why you have ED is the first step in treating the condition. That's why you need to know your numbers and understand what other factors might be contributing, and then work with an expert to treat it. And that's where we shine. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we have protocols that are effective in nearly 90% of cases, which means we'll likely find the right treatment for you and you can get your sex life back. So call us. Your first appointment includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. We have 2 offices to serve you, Midtown and Franklin.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra, results vary.
Want to weigh in on the conversation? It's a brain booster. Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
In terms of this off season, between yourself and Derek and Kevin Byard, as far as all the rumors and all that floated out on the internet, and what each of you probably were traded or released 3 times, how did you respond to all that as things like that come about, even though you're still here?
Yeah, I tried to stay out of it, honestly. Didn't see a lot of it. I'd get a text from a friend or something, like, oh, really? So just try to stay out of as much as you can. I think riding that roller coaster is a tough one to ride, so just try to stay out of it, and I just kept my head down, kept doing the things I could do each and every day, and if something was going to happen, I'm sure they'd let me know. So didn't really ride that roller coaster.
That was Ryan Tannehill earlier this offseason when asked by Jim Wyatt if he kind of bought into any of the trade narratives with him, Kevin, Derek. And he seems to think, he's like, I try to shut out the noise. And listen, I believe him. I believe him. Because if I'm Ryan Tannehill, I would do the same thing. The team you play for has drafted 2 quarterbacks in the past 2 years. I'd do the same thing. So, Adam, you got to listen to me rant. I know I got a little crazy. I'm very passionate about this topic, if you couldn't tell. But what are your thoughts on my opinion of trying to get Will Levis in the mix sooner rather than later?
Oh, where do I begin? I think you make some salient points. I understand where you're coming from. If you are going to invest the type of assets that the Tennessee Titans did in acquiring Will Levis by moving up in the draft to take him where they did, it would make sense to roll with him or give him as much opportunity as you can to seize that job. But I just go back to what we were talking about earlier in the show with what Jeffrey Simmons said about not wanting to be part of a rebuild. To me, I feel like putting Will Levis in over Ryan Tannehill effectively signifies a rebuild. Just because you're putting in a rookie quarterback. Now, it's that, as you said, there are examples. Well, let's see. Well, when you look around the league, you look at the teams that are probably going to start rookie quarterbacks this year. Houston, clearly in a rebuild. Indianapolis, they're kind of like half in, half out. They could be competitive. Could being the operative word. To me, if you put Will Levis in, you might as well, just not prepared to make the playoffs. And I just don't think the Titans are at that point yet. It could happen next year, which seems more likely than not. But to me, the only way that Will Levis should start a game or appear in a game this season is if Ryan Tannehill is injured or the Titans are either blowing somebody out or being blown out and you put him in garbage time. I think you have Ryan Tannehill. He's a perfectly fine quarterback. He's Ryan Tannehill's not the quarterback who's going to win or lose you games single-handedly. Now, there are examples of him doing both of those things, namely the playoff game against Cincinnati. But he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. Not very many He's not Joe Burrow. He's a steady hand. So to me, I think you're very passionate about this, I can tell. To me, I stick with Ryan Tannehill until he's not on the team anymore.
And your point of that if they made the transition that they wouldn't make the playoffs, I don't think they're making the playoffs anyway. I really don't. I see this team as it's constructed, and again, they could sign DeAndre Hopkins next week, and for me, that changes a lot because when you add a different receiver, and like TD had touched on, You're seeing all those stacked box, and you have another guy across from Traylon Burks that we know is going to come out and produce. I genuinely believe that this team is going to have a tough time competing with the AFC. If you throw the Titans today in the NFC, I think they're a playoff team. But we're talking about the AFC here. So I want to go over to the phone line. We're going to head over to the phones. Dre apparently disagrees with me. So drivenbywilsoncountyhonda.com. Dre, go ahead.
What's up, man? Hey, first off, I just want to say I listen to Jared's show from 2 to 6 every day of the week. I really love the show, but when he goes on vacation, I tend to tune out. And I got to admit, you got my attention today, man. You're doing a great job filling in.
I appreciate that, Dre.
But as far as playing Levis, yeah, I definitely do not agree with that. I'm a Tannehill guy. But unless we could get a decent draft pick for Tannehill, then I probably would be for it.
Okay, well, Dre, I have a question for you then. Before you go.
What's that?
So why do you think this Titans team, as currently constructed, is a playoff team?
Yes.
You do. Okay, so yes. Which team are they getting over? Because I don't think they're getting over the Bengals, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Chargers.
I think we can win the division. I think we could we're in play for winning the division, and once we're in the playoffs, hey, you never know what could happen.
All right. Well, I appreciate the phone call, Dre. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.
So we got a few texts as well. Sean says, "You're crazy if you think Levis will be even close to ready to start an NFL game this season. Almost every QB is better off sitting a year." Say that to Josh Allen, who did not look the best his first year, but by year 3, he looked like an MVP candidate. So Gunner on the text line says, "I'm not mad at this take. I absolutely love it. Best Titans take I've heard from you." Okay, I appreciate that. And then Matt from Camden says, "The only way Levis touches the field this year is if the Titans start the season 2-5 or Tannehill gets hurt. You just wasted 15 minutes of your time with that rant." And that's fine. And the Titans may want to hold on to Tannehill. I'm not saying what the Titans will do. I'm saying what I think the Titans should do. And I think that my reasoning for it is quite valid.
No, I think, look, that was a well-researched and thought-out rant. Let's call it what it was, a rant for the for as long as it was. And I was enthralled. I thought you made some good points. I just think that the Titans are not ready to take that step back that we were just talking about with the Predators. The Predators have started to take that step back. Now, have they gone all the way back? Not necessarily, but they're at least acknowledging that they need to step back. The Titans are not there yet. And as long as Mike Vrabel to me is not the kind of coach for a rebuild. Like, Mike Vrabel does not seem like the kind of coach who will willingly take that step back. He's ultra competitive. He never really had to deal with that in his career, especially when he was in New England and winning the Super Bowl multiple times. So I think as long as he's in charge, Ryan Tannehill is going to be the quarterback until he's taken away from him, whether it's by injury, by trade, cut, what have you. I just think that if the Titans are set on competing in the AFC South or in the AFC in general, it's got to be Ryan Tannehill. I think Will Levis, may it help him in the long term? Maybe, but I don't. But the Titans are going to win very many games with him at quarterback, and I think the Titans are still committed to winning.
We shall see on the Tennessee Titans and how they end up playing out this year. Will they compete for the playoffs? There is a potential move that they can make that will change my mind and put them into the playoff contention, and that is the meeting that is coming up on Monday with DeAndre Hopkins. We're going to circle back, and we're going to talk about D-Hop and his meeting with the Titans coming up next. You're listening to Stillman & Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Every day we are live and local.
Blown out in one game against a team that's just flat out better than you.
And your source for Nashville sports.
How many needs are you going to create for yourself this offseason?
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Family Leisure is having a come out and play sale. Hundreds of pools in stock and on sale. DIY pools start at only $16.99. 24-foot pools are only $29.99 installed in 7 to 10 days.
More than 100 spas in stock and ready for immediate delivery starting at only $29.99.
And Family Leisure has the Diamond Point Play Gym at only $24.99 installed, ready for immediate delivery.
Family Leisure is calling you to come out and play at both huge locations, Franklin and Antioch.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Houston Clinic Orthopedics wants to thank their patients for voting them the #1 orthopedic practice in the Nashville Scene Poll for 3 years in a row. Their physicians specialize in spine, joint replacement, knee, hip, upper extremity, and other orthopedic conditions. At Houston Clinic Orthopedics, they adhere to all CDC guidelines for the patient's and staff safety. To experience world-class orthopedic care and see a list of all physicians, visit their website at tn.houston.com and book your appointment online today.
Hey, it's Withrow. Regal Realty Group and Monarch Title have made it even easier for you to buy or sell your house. Their updated website is very helpful for buyers and sellers with a list of communities and featured listings and answers to questions you may have when selling. Take a look around at regalrg.com. You'll find your new home with their super easy search bar. Regal Realty helps from contract to closing and everything in between, like inspections, appraisals, and paperwork. Let them do the heavy lifting and make it easy for you. Everything you need is at regalrg.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about washing your car? Right now, you can get the Armor All Ultimate Car Care Detailing 8-piece kit for only $25. That's soap, a wash mitt, wheel cleaner, tire shine, glass wipes, and interior wipes, all together in a bucket. Give your car the shine it deserves at the right price. Only at AutoZone.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Second straight Stanley Cup. Colorado has won the Stanley Cup.
The Stanley Cup final lives here. Which team will hoist Lord Stanley's Cup in 2023? Follow all the action on Smashville's home for postseason hockey. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Nashville, this is Dan Lebitard. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Nobody is running out there trying to get him in. So when I hear these reports, I don't know who these other guys are talking to, but I'm talking to individuals in these franchises, executives who are like, yeah, we're interested. Let's wait and see what happens. You know, so his market right now, to me, is Tennessee. Who are the Titans bidding against? Well, the Jets didn't think they were bidding against really anybody of consequence when it came to Odell. And then what happened? Lamar Jackson wanted him in Baltimore, and that's ultimately how Odell Beckham Jr. secured a $15 million one-year contract with $3 million in incentives. He wasn't going to get anywhere else. I think we're in a similar situation with Hopkins. If the Titans are in overdrive and just have to have him, maybe he gets that contract. But I don't know who else out there fitting his needs in terms of wanting to play with an established quarterback, wanting to play for a franchise that's got a chance to contend or at least be a playoff franchise. I don't know who else out there is going to give him that kind of a deal.
That was Charles Robinson on Robbie and Rex Road this morning that he appears on from 8 to 8:30 every single Thursday. Junie Riddle and Adam Vingan in the the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. I almost called it by the old name. Sorry about that. But Charles Robinson makes a great point that right now DeAndre Hopkins market seems to be dried up. A big favorite was the Cleveland Browns, but one of the Cleveland Browns beat reporters said that although Deshaun Watson's really pushing to get DeAndre Hopkins, that the Browns are not very interested in going to get a major wide receiver like that, and that it is a long shot to pull him in. So the question that I posed before the break was, does getting DeAndre Hopkins on this Titan team make them a contender? Adam Vingan, your opinion.
Well, I guess it goes back to what I defined as competing or being competitive when it came to the Predators. To me, being competitive or being a contender isn't, can this team make the playoffs? It's, can this team win a championship? Because I think the bar is too low when you say, can this team just make the playoffs? And of course, football is a completely different beast when it comes to the playoffs. You play one game each round. So, you just put your best foot forward in each game. But if DeAndre Hopkins joined this team and that was everything else stayed the same, I think they're the favorite to win the AFC South. I mean, I think it closes the gap with Jacksonville that seems to have formed over the past year or so. But to your point to the caller last segment, do I think it makes them better than Buffalo or Cincinnati or Kansas City or Los Angeles? No, I don't. I mean, I think they would have a puncher's chance in those games, but I just think that if this team is set on competing, especially at wide receiver, they need someone like DeAndre Hopkins. So it's kind of like a little bit of column A and a little bit from column B. Like if they sign Hopkins, I think they're in position to win the division. But after that, I still think they're lesser than the top teams in the AFC.
I would tend to agree with you, especially when it comes to the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Bengals. But when you're talking about just in the division, I think that this definitely would put them in the conversation with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I just think that when TD came on earlier and says when you have Derrick Henry and he's playing at an elite level, you're going to see 8 men and 9 men stacked inside the box. Now, have you ever seen the movie The Dark Knight?
It's been a while.
It's been a while. Well, there's a scene where Morgan Freeman is talking to Coleman Reese, and Coleman Reese works for Wayne Enterprises. And he found out that Bruce Wayne is Batman, right? And then Morgan Freeman calls him out on his plan and says, you think that your boss, who dresses up as a vigilante and beats criminals to a pulp with his bare hands, your plan is to blackmail this person? And then his response was, good luck. And that's how I feel about this offense. If you have to stack the box to stop Derrick Henry and you have a Treylon Burks with something to prove in the leap forward that we all truly believe that he's going to take, and DeAndre Hopkins, the certified veteran, that also has something to prove on the other side, and Chika Okonkwo at the tight end position, which we all think that he's going to take a big step as well. I just think it just completely flips the dynamic of this offense. And TD mentioned, I have some reservations about the offense. TD is a lot more confident about them than I am. But if this offensive line is somewhere in the middle of the pack and you get DeAndre Hopkins, I would say they have a puncher's chance in the playoffs. I truly believe they have a puncher's chance. Teams that run the ball the best and stop the run win in the playoffs. And we've already seen last year that the Titans had one of the best run-stuffing defenses in the entire league. And if you get Derrick Henry going and you have these weapons on the outside, that would truly change my mind about this Tennessee Titans team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because right now, they don't look like a playoff team to me. Now, earlier you referenced that I gave them 10 wins, which is true, but that was an incredibly unscientific prediction that required
that
me
is
to,
true.
required to do me. I had to do it on the spot. I didn't have the time to study it like Jared does and look at the other team's schedules and short weeks, bye weeks, et cetera, et cetera. They play an easy schedule, an easier schedule. So that certainly helps. So that's why I think they could be a playoff team in that regard. Like But in terms of actually doing something when they get there, that's where I'm hesitant. Now, if you add DeAndre Hopkins, if they win the division, they'll host a playoff game, presumably in the wild card round, because I don't expect them to have a bye. They could win that playoff game. Then who knows what could happen after that? But my gut tells me that even with Hopkins, this team is not more than a one-win playoff team, as in winning the wild card round, losing in the divisional round.
And again, from time to time, we see years, and I think this might be inevitable that, the Chiefs or a big team like that might have an off year. I mean, how many years in a row are the Chiefs going to go to the AFC Championship? I mean, and for that fact, host the AFC Championship. I mean, they've done it. They've hosted the AFC Championship, I believe, every single year that Patrick Mahomes has been a starter. Injuries play in effect. Joe Burrow tore his ACL, 2 or 3 seasons ago. There's so many factors that happen in football, in injuries, in the unknown. You never know what could happen. And I truly believe that once you get into the NFL playoffs, that it is different. People say that about hockey, and personally, I would say it's very outlandish for a team that doesn't have a bunch of talent or didn't deal with injuries throughout the year that were a low seed to really make a run. So I truly see that if they get Hopkins in this offensive line, the way that TD was telling me how he expects them to play, if that comes true, then I truly see this team as a contender to make some noise in the playoffs and have it and just have a fighter's chance, because that's what Vrabel's going to bring you. Nobody thought this team was going to get there in 2019, and they wind up going on the run, ending Brady's tenure with the New England Patriots. No one saw that coming. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens had won 12 straight games, 14-2. They looked to be unstoppable, and they went into Baltimore and just absolutely crushed them. You just never know. And I think when you have a guy like D-Hop and you have an emerging talent like Treylon Burks and you have a tight end with so much potential like a Chikakonkwo, if you bring in D-Hop, in my opinion, it just changes. It changes everything. It truly changes everything. It changes the attention span of the defense. It changes the double teams. It changes the whole schematics of how you have to play this Titans team. Because if you have D-Hop, a young Treylon Burks, and a Derrick Henry, somebody's going to eat. And that's too many mouths to be fed for them to starve.
When you look at the rest of the AFC, there is an opening after that top tier. So if we're including Buffalo and Kansas City and Cincinnati, I guess you can throw Los Angeles in there too if you'd like. There is an opening for a team like the Titans to make some noise. Of course, you have to throw in the Jets. The Jets in there now with Aaron Rodgers. We'll see how that goes. Miami's got questions. Baltimore's got questions. Pittsburgh, no offense, has questions. I think there are I think we can all agree that the Bills, Bengals, and Chiefs in some order are the top 3 teams in the AFC. But after that, there is room for the Titans, especially if they add DeAndre Hopkins, to be that 4th team. There are some, as I mentioned, some teams hanging around there. But I do think with Hopkins, the Titans could be in that discussion of, okay, if that's the top tier, who leads the 2nd tier? And I think the Titans with Hopkins could be that team.
Going to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, Ty says, is the defense good enough? We think so. If we add Hopkins, are they better with him and Burks than they were with AJ and Julio? It's dependent on the offensive line. And I think that's a good point, because I don't know how good Treylon Burks is going to be compared to A.J. Brown, but I will tell you this. DeAndre Hopkins, this upcoming season, wherever he winds up playing, will be much better than the 2021 form of Julio Jones. And if Treylon Burks is, let's say, 75, 80% of what A.J. Brown was in 2020, in 2021, then I genuinely think that might be a better duo going into this year than the AJ and Julio was in 2021. That was a good question by you, Ty.
Well, a lot. It doesn't take a lot, I feel like, for it to be better than that group, just because Julio Jones was so unreliable.
I mean, very much so. But, you know, they were really relying on him because, like I said, that 2020 year where Tannehill threw for 33 touchdowns and 7 picks, and they were a top 5 offense. I think they were top 3, actually. And you had a Corey Davis, and you had a Jonnu Smith, and AJ was in his year 2, and Derrick Henry rushed for 2,000 yards. I'm not saying that they would be as good as that offense, but I'm saying that this would easily be, with the Titans' history of being a more defensive, run-first, conservative team, this would be one of the better offenses that the Titans seen in a while outside of that 2020 year if they go out and get a DeAndre Hopkins. So it is good food for thought. We're going to round out the show next segment. We're going to probably get into some NBA finals, some NHL finals, talking about some of the big sporting events going on. A big-name soccer player planning on coming to the MLS. We're going to get into some of the national narratives that have been going on in all the world of sports to wrap out Stillman and Company. You're listening to Stillman and Company again here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Want to jump into the mind of a 15-year NFL vet? Well, here's your chance. D-Mace. It's Ask D-Mace.
Come on, bring them on.
Ask questions on football and life to Derek Mason every Friday at 12:30 on Ask D-Mace.
Don't mess with her. The skilled guy. Money reigns supreme.
On Caroline, Willie, and
D-Mace.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Ray Jeter here with Harness. Are you looking to take ownership in a position that will support your growth and development? We are an excavation and site utilities contractor. Several things set us apart from our competition, but we take the most pride in the professional development of our people. We have multiple openings for operators, pipe layers, and laborers. Our pay and benefits are second to none, including our 401k program. Apply today at selectharness.com. Harness LLC. Build people, move dirt.
This Father's Day, save big at Electronic Express. Don't miss a TCL 75-inch 4K TV for just $549, or an Amana laundry pair for only $399 each. Get gifts for dad with huge savings in every department: computers, appliances, 4K TVs, smart home, furniture and mattresses, and more. Get a Lenovo laptop for just $399, or a Traeger Pro Series grill for only $499. Get up to 3 years free financing throughout the entire store. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
3 days of racing, 3 days of music, one huge weekend event. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is not just a race or a festival, it's an experience. Multiple music stations with Flo Rida, Vince Neil, Chris Jansen, Gavin DeGraw, and more. Fast cars going over 200 miles an hour. And a family fun zone with inflatables, Ferris wheels, kids games, and kid-friendly food trucks. Tickets and premium hospitality are on sale now. Go to MusicCityGP.com for tickets and get ready to experience Nashville's premier speed and sound event.
Hey, Tennessee! We're Zen Sports, the new sportsbook in town. We listen to your feedback on our competitors, so we designed Zen Sports just the way you wish. Set favorites, search and sort bets, and earn real cash rewards, saving you time and money with every bet you make. Find the bets you want, not those distracting bets that seem too good to be true but rarely are. Best of all, withdraw your winnings in under 24 hours. So take control of your bets, because with Zen Sports, betting just got better. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 and up and in Tennessee to bet.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the 4-day super sale, June 9th through the 12th, and get 40% off paints and stains with prices starting at $26.69. That means 40% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, get 40% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Take as little as 3 minutes to see if you could save on motorcycle insurance with Progressive. Come on, you've spent more time than that trying to name your bike.
How about the Crusher? I guess it's not really crushing anything. The Silver Bolt? No. Oh, what about Pepper? Mysterious. Is it a pet or a condiment? Surprise! It's a motorcycle. No, that's stupid.
Get a quote in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Nashville's radio version of The Odd Couple.
This number makes more sense. It does not make more sense.
It's absolutely. Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robbie and Rexrode.
Yay, we win. We don't. We lose. No, I disagree.
Robbie and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 9.
If you're good enough, you're good enough.
It's absurd. Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Final segment of the day, Stillman and Company, Junie Riddle, Adam Vingan in here. You can watch us streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook live every day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook. Download their app and use the promo code THEGAME. So, we teased it before the break, talking NHL Finals, NBA Finals, but maybe the most interesting news that came out for me was hearing that Lionel Messi is going to be joining the MLS team down in Miami. I think that is wild. And I heard Nick Keyser, and I'm gonna shout him out for finding this. They were holding out on selling season tickets for Inter Miami because they were waiting on the news on whether or not Messi was going to come. And now the average cost of a seat for a ticket to go see that team is going to be like $360. That's more than most NFL teams just to go watch Lionel Messi play, which, I mean, I get it. He's one of the best players, ever to play. And to be honest with you, I'm going to have to like phone a friend or something to try and get the hookup when they come play here in Nashville. I don't know. Ian, you got the hookup when it comes to Nashville SC tickets so that we can go see Messi play?
I know, right? That's going to be a hot ticket. So that'll be fun. That part would be fun. Get to watch Messi. Who knows what he's got left in the tank as far as the skills. He's getting up there. But
well, it's reminiscent of when David Beckham joined the LA Galaxy.
Yep.
And Wayne Rooney, I think, played for DC United recently, but that was like very much at the tail end of his career. So, no, I think also the fact that reportedly he turned down like this being Messi, a $400 million offer from the Saudis, something that the PGA was unwilling to do the other day. So, good for him on that front. And it's been, if you're a Miami, South Florida sports fan, you've had a lot to be happy about lately. The Heat are in the finals, though they're losing. The Panthers are in the Stanley Cup final, though they're losing. I think the Marlins are actually doing pretty well right now. And now you've got Messi in town. So, but then you go back to what Florida Atlantic did during the NCAA tournament. Miami, University of Miami, both men's and women's teams, I think, made the Final Four in March Madness. So there was a lot to, or close to it. So there's a lot to like if you're a sports fan. But yeah, big news with Messi joining Inter Miami. But yeah, I'll be curious to see if, Major League Soccer has done a lot to gain a foothold in the United States, obviously, and capture that fan base, and they have very devoted fan bases, their respective teams. But how much does Messi move the needle for the casual sports fan that they can watch him more often?
Joey from Bellevue texted in and said Inter Miami already played Nashville this season. I get that, Joey. I'm talking about next year, just for reference.
Yeah, Messi comes next year.
What is it? Messi
will be.
That's
what
I
next
figured.
year.
I didn't think he was.
Well, how much do you think a ticket to see that game next year will be?
Here?
Yes.
Ooh, I mean, with the new stadium and everything, and the amount of people that are going to want to go, I feel like soccer's really grown right now. I don't know.
That's a good question. A lot of the home games are pretty well attended as they are right now.
What's a ticket go for right now, Ian?
Honestly, dog, I couldn't tell you exactly.
I don't know. I feel like they go for maybe like. I'm gonna say at least $250, because this is the largest soccer only stadium in the U.S. So I'm gonna say $250, especially with it being on the road. But I mean, you never know. I mean, the fact that it's so high in Miami, maybe it might be even higher than a $360, just because you're only gonna see them like once a year in all these other cities. So maybe it might be higher. So. That's definitely something to look forward to. But I want to get into the game tonight with you, Adam, and I want your thoughts because I'm really high on the Florida Panthers getting a win tonight. I think they just can't fall into an 0-3 hole, and I think Tkachuk and company find a way to make this a series. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I think the Panthers will win. Quite frankly, they need to win tonight's game for it to be a series. If they split these two home games and go back to Vegas down 3-1, it's more than likely that Vegas is going to win. And history already suggests that Vegas is going to win because in NHL history, there have been 53 teams that have fallen behind 2-0 in a best-of-7 Stanley Cup final, and only 5 of them have come back to win. So history suggests that Vegas is in the driver's seat to win the Stanley Cup. But these past 2 games have been hard to watch if you're a Panthers fan. They've been outscored 12-4. The underlying numbers suggest the series is closer than it appears, but it hasn't been pretty on the scoreboard. So, I think the Panthers are a resilient group. So I don't think they're going to win the series overall, but I do expect them to get a game tonight to make it a series.
Now, kind of flipping over to the NBA Finals, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic both had a triple-double last night in their rout of the Miami Heat in Game 3, first game down there in Miami. Did you get to catch the game last night?
Unfortunately, I did not watch much of the game last night. I know what happened, but I did not watch it live.
We had our golf tournament, so I didn't get home till late, and it was really close, back and forth from what I was reading on Twitter. And then I got to watch the second half, and I was like, man, I really wish I got to watch the first half because they just absolutely pulled away. I mean, it was a consistent 10, 15, 20-point lead for the Nuggets the entire time. And honestly, it's a bit of a disappointment because I actually really enjoy watching the NBA Finals. And I feel like outside of Game 2 and the excitement that happened there, it's really just been all Denver. And I'm kind of hoping Miami gets Game 4 just so the series gets extended and gets exciting, because if the Nuggets win Game 4 in Miami and get the 2 wins there, they're definitely winning in Game 5 for their home fans when they go back to Denver. I don't have a shadow of a doubt of it.
The Denver is a great team. It's been great to see them on this stage. Nikola Jokic is the most underappreciated superstar in sport, perhaps, in North American sports at least. So I'm glad that he's getting that exposure, and I like the Nuggets a lot. So if they win, no problem with me.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I don't really care who wins because I think Miami, with the underdog story that they are, would be nice. But Nuggets haven't won an NBA Finals ever, so I mean that would be also good. And Jokic being one of the greatest players in the world, it'd be nice to see him get a win as well. Like I said, I just want to see a competitive series. Sports are about to come to slim pickings. WNBA, MLB regular season. It's gonna be tough. So I really want these final games to go as long as they possibly can. But hey, that's all the time we have. You've been listening to Stillman & Company with Junior Riddle and Adam Vingan. Great show with you, Adam. I think Caroline. Are you and Caroline going to be back here
Caroline and me tomorrow.
All right. Tune in tomorrow from 2 to 6 for Caroline and Adam Vingan. You've been listening to Stillman & Company here on 102.5 and